Good evening, everyone. Uh, we have completed one big task today, that is the CLAT 2025 paper. Uh, the paper in this session basically will be talking a bit about the first impression of the paper in the first, and then we'll be discussing each section one by one, along with all the difficulty levels and other things. Now, going ahead, what is in the agenda? As we are talking, the team is preparing the answer key for CLAT. So maybe within next 5 to 10 minutes, you will be getting an answer key on our Telegram channel, that is CLATPREP Education. Also, within a span of few more minutes, around 20 to 30 minutes, we will put up answer key of all the four sections, that's what all the four codes of the paper in an Excel format, so that anybody who has any set of the paper, they can easily cross check their scores and answers. We'll also be putting up all these things on our website, that is clatprepindia.com. uh, we'll talk about first impression, what was the feel of the student. We have interacted with a lot of the student after the exam center. We have seen paper by ourselves, and what can we expect from this particular paper in terms of difficulty level, in terms of the students attempt, and everything we'll be discussing. Along with that, then we'll be having a detailed section wise, caution wise analysis as well as solution. uh, and then in the last, we'll be coming up with the final verdict, the final analysis of the overall paper. What can you expect in terms of cutoffs and ranks and everything? So we'll be starting with the basic thing, that is the first impression. Now, in first impression, the paper seems to be a bit on easy to moderate kind of range, wherein more towards easiness. So it is somewhere between easy to moderate, but more diverted, tilted towards the easy paper. Now, going through the section, if I talk about the English section was very easy. Options were very uh, approachable. There are very few questions where a student will get confused in the options, whether I have to mark option B or option C. It was clearly understood. If you go through if you go through a decent reading speed, and if you go through a basic accuracy, you will be find that English was very much manageable. Fine. uh, there were only four passages, so again, paper was not lengthy, and level of difficulty level of questions, and there were no closed options, so that way English was very easy. When it comes to GK, there were few questions which can be answered through paragraph only, which again is a sitter for everyone, and it was more on very conventional lines. There was no surprise element as per se. If you can talk about GK, that in GK you get some absurd question or some unconventional question, the stuff, these kind of stuff was not there in this year's GK. When I talk about legal reasoning, now legal reasoning is one of the section where some of the student who prepared a lot for legal reasoning might been a bit disappointed because the paper was a bit easy. When I say a bit easy, you'll find very less caution or almost no caution which are basically fact principle based kind of stuff. It is more towards reading comprehension rather than legal situations. Plus, if you have gone through basic legal knowledge, that you should have already gone. When you come to the classes, we talk you about what is crime, what is torts, what is contract. We teach you basic nuances, basic uh, terminology, what we call as legal knowledge, basic legal knowledge. So if all the student who had a decent legal knowledge with them, they can easily approach this particular paper, because this legal reasoning section was more based on reading comprehension rather than legal aspect. Plus, there were some questions which we can call them as static legal questions or legal knowledge based questions. So if a student has both a good recent reading speed, comprehension skills, which definitely you all have prepared for the entire year or 1 year 2 year, and then if you have some basic legal knowledge, then this legal reasoning section was very easy for maximum number of student. And since there were very less situational questions, it is less time consuming. And since it was less time consuming, you might have get benefit on other sections. You might get some extra time for other sections to attempt. Now, coming to logical reasoning section. Now, usually CLAT says that we'll be asking questions on critical reasoning in terms of logic in the logical reasoning section. But this year there was a shocker. For many students, there was a surprise element that we had a analytical reasoning set based on sitting arrangement in this particular set, and due to this surprise element, many students panicked during the exam. Also, we got the feel that some of the cautions in this particular set were dubious. We also got a basic overview that some cautions in this particular set took time. It was time consuming, but again, overall going through it, it was more student got a basically shock and surprise by seeing analytical reasoning set in that, because normally what happens is people do not practice analytical reasoning and logical reasoning set more in detail when they are preparing for CLAT exam. Students try to focus on analytical reasoning and all after CLAT exam for AILET and SLAT. So they have asked this. So students who have prepared for CLAT, AILET, SLAT right from the start will be comfortable in this. But if you are not, if you have left analytical reasoning, then it comes to your own intelligence that whether you will be able to crack that analytical reasoning set or not. Fine. So logical reasoning, I am putting on a bit of easy to moderate side. Now critical reasoning, again, some of the questions the options were tricky, so accuracy may vary, and some of the student have wasted time in analytical reasoning set. So again, these are the true things. If you have not worked upon your accuracy, and if you have wasted time in analytical reasoning set of this particular section, if you have completed it, that's fine. If you have attempted it, wasted 5 minutes and then left it, in that situation you will be at loss in this particular paper. Fine. Then coming to the last section, that is QT. Now in QT there are only two sets. One was easy, one seems to be a bit tricky in some of the questions, again manageable, but going through the basics that generally student uh, feels a bit low in quant. So keeping on those factors in mind, I'll rate QT as somewhere between easy to moderate. We'll be discussing all these sections one by one again. Just after my basic overview, faculties will come and will explain each and every question to you, that what should be the answer of this question, how this question can be answered, whether it's a tricky question, whether it's straightforward question. Detailed one by one question wise analysis will be continuing in this session. Fine. So this was a basic overview. Now comparing this year's paper with other past 2 year paper, if I may say, when I talk about English, in CLAT 2023, it was somewhere easy to moderate. CLAT 24, it was easy. 25, I told you it is easy. Current affairs and GK 23, it was moderate. 24, it was easy. 25 again easy. Logical reasoning, easy to moderate. Last year it was easy. In CLAT 25, I'll call it as easy to moderate. Legal reasoning is easy for CLAT 25, and QT again easy to moderate. Now comparing the cutoffs, expecting what you can expect from this CLAT 25 paper, you see one simple basic thing. Just give me a minute. Yeah. When I talk about CLAT 23, paper was slightly difficult, moderate to difficult, but it was a 150 marks, and the cutoff of Bangalore was around 95 marks. Last year, the paper was squeezed to 120 marks in CLAT 24, and paper was very easy. All five sections were easy, and as a result, the cutoff of the NLUs and score of the student got a big boost. So NLS cutoff last year was 99 instead of being 120 question out of 150. Fine. Similarly, if I talk about top 5 NLUs in CLAT 23, the cutoff marks for top 5 NLU was 86. Fine. In CLAT 24, the cutoff marks was 94. So if you go by simple logic, that in CLAT 24, what happened, because paper was squeezed to 120 marks, you see a very huge density from 99 to 94. Top 5 NLUs are over. Fine. This year again you can expect a very high density, because most of the question in the paper were easy. Number one, game changer will be score in your quant. Game changer will be accuracy in reasoning section. You see, there will be very few student who said my English doesn't went well, or my current affairs doesn't went well, or my legal doesn't went well. Most of the students are very much comfortable with their performances these three sections. So what section will make difference? The difference will be created in two sections. One is critical reasoning section, and the second is quant section. The student who have not attended quant, again, will be at a loss in this particular paper, because whenever you have a paper where everybody is scoring, and then if others have scored well in other sections also, so student who have not scored well in quant will be having a bit of the problem when it comes to the overall scores and ranking. Fine. In quant specifically, when I've seen the quant, I'll be taking the solution of quant one by one section wise. After me, Kuldeep sir will come and he will be talking about GK. Each and every question he'll be discussing about. He'll also talk about whether the questions were from the sources that you have done or not. Then we'll have faculty who will be dealing with English section, question one by one. He'll be discussing one by one questions. Again, going ahead, I'll be coming to discuss each and every question of quant after that. And then after that, we'll be having a discussion on critical reasoning, where in that section, we'll be discussing each and every question, what can be the options, if there is any dubiousness in answer, or if there is any point to raise that we find these two options are correct. We'll again talk about if there are two possible answers to a question. Also, we'll talk about whether is there, in case of discrepancy, which option is the better option. So we'll be talking about all these things in detail with you. Fine, going ahead. Now, I will ask Kuldeep now to come and have a discussion with you, and he'll be talking about the detailed analysis of GK section with one by one question, analysis, solution, and everything. Fine. But before that, I'll just want to say one thing. We have put a poll in our Telegram channel. So please go to the Telegram channel. We'll be putting up answer key over there within next 2 to 5 minutes. I have put a poll over there by for capturing your impression, since paper is just been completed. So we need a feedback from you people also to be a bit on more relevant side, that what performance of masses was. So on, go to our Telegram channel, there is a poll asking about how you felt about the paper, whether it was easy, it was moderate, or it was tough. So going through that, please put your answer on the poll, and once you put your answer on the poll, we'll be getting that data also, so that when I'll be coming for the last part, that is overall analysis of the paper in detail with some expected marks and cutoff and ranges, so that will help us to do it. Fine. So having said that, now we'll be switching to the analysis part of the paper. I'll just open the paper once. All right, so we'll be starting with the series O, and we'll be doing it with the series O kind of paper. Fine. Just let me zoom a bit. All right, I think it's visible. It's fine for us. So just in a moment, Kuldeep will come and he will start the analysis of GK section. Followed with this, we'll be having a section analysis of English, followed by quant, followed by critical reasoning, and then in the last, we'll talk about legal reasoning. Fine. So just hold on. Kuldeep will join you in a moment. Thank you, everyone.
Hello. Hello. Hello, students. I hope your paper went well. By the look of this particular paper, I would say As expected, this was on the easier to moderate side. And as Abhishek sir has given you a detailed analysis of all the specific sections of this particular paper, I would be taking the GK section, and I have to say it that it was a very, very easy paper. But as this was unexpected that all of the questions, most of the questions were going to be passage based. But again, I've always advised my student that do not believe that if you are going to skip GK and just focus on passage reading, you would be able to attempt it, because here also we are going to look at the different passages. And one of the things which we are going to observe is that you're just by reading the passage, you would not be able to answer all the question. Many of the question would require you a specific understanding of the subject. Moreover, there is again another passage from modern history, and this year we had put specific input. We had provided specific inputs for modern history only. We had told you that because of the last year paper, last year Jallianwala Bagh came up. This year there was a passage which was talking about specifically about civil disobedience movement, but there is a discussion regarding the non-cooperation movement also, or you should have at least important, or you should have some understanding of the civil disobedience movement, non-cooperation movement, and how it is affected. I would say that in this particular GK paper, you also have to apply critical reasoning also. So I can say not just your critical reasoning section was there, you also had critical reasoning in your GK section also there. But I'm very sure that because of the different kind of CLAT mocks, CLAT prep mocks which you have attempted, in which we also did statement based question, and this year's paper proves it that why it is very important to try different kind of paper patterns, different kind of mock patterns, simply because that this particular pattern would have been unexpected if we would have given you a single kind of paper analysis only, depending on the previous year question paper only. Okay, so without wasting any time, let's look at the questions which are there in this GK question. So I'll start with the first passage, and if you will look at the first passage, it is as expected. This was one of the most important topic, and if you remember our most important MIT series, there also this was covered in very much detail. And all the question, even if you would not have read one or two questions from even if you would have not read the passage, then also you would have been able to answer all of these questions. Okay, so let's look at this passage. If you will look at this passage is about Paris Olympics. The fact that it was the first time the ceremony took place for the first time outside a stadium along the river. So our question has been drafted on this basis also. And if you will look at the second passage and the third passage, it is basically congratulating the French government and the IOC, the International Olympic Committee, for having conducted a particular a successful Olympics games. But at the same time, it is also talking about the background of your geopolitics which was happening in that particular time. And basically, it is talking about the Israel-Hamas war, as well as your Gaza conflict, and also your Russia-Ukraine conflict, that this particular games took place in the background of that particular war. And accordingly, some questions have been framed on this particular understanding also. Again, I would say that the question which have been framed from passage 2, passage 3 can be solved by reading the passage also. Okay, but if you have some prior knowledge of it, it becomes very easier for you. And the main agenda for a student in this particular exam is to save his time in the GK section, so that he can give or devote more time to the to other section, basically your time taking sections like your logical reasoning, your critical reasoning, your legal reasoning, and your quantitative aptitude also. Okay, so now let's start and let's look at the questions also. Okay, now let's look at question number 25. India won a back-to-back Olympics hockey medal at. So again, I would say it was a very tricky question, because if you will look at the option, Beijing and Paris, Rio and Beijing and Tokyo, all three are not correct. All three are wrong statements. So actually, if you will look at the options, the correct answer is actually D in this particular case. So the answer for question number 25 is going to be D. And you could have answered this particular passage by reading the passage also, but you had to be very smart. And this time, examiner has been smart in might be confusing you. For example, health restriction forced the organizers of Tokyo 2020 and Beijing 2022 to sharply limit the scale of festivities, with events largely closed to the public. Paris 2024, powered in part by pent-up demand for communal expenses, symbolize an international post-pandemic vibe shift. So all of these statements are important for us, because unless you read the passages, you would not be able to answer it. So what you could have done, how you could have approached the GK section in this particular exam, you could have first read the question. If you felt like that the passage reading would be required, Either you read the passage then and there, or you attempt the GK in the next in a later portion of the exam, because GK reading would also take up a lot of time. Okay, but anyway, so here they have mentioned two Olympic games, Tokyo and Beijing. But if you are not aware that the previous Summer Olympics was Tokyo 2020, and your Beijing 2022 was actually your Winter Olympics, this would show that your option number A, India won a back-to-back Olympics hockey medal, would be in Tokyo, and Paris, which is not one of the options. And if you did not have prior knowledge regarding this, then you would have marked maybe Beijing and Paris as the option, because we are aware, because this also mentioned this fact that in hockey Olympics we had a back-to-back medal. So yes, passage reading is required, but you have to be smart, as well as you need to have prior knowledge of certain aspects of this particular questions. Okay, moving on to the next question, question number 26. According to the passage, what is the peculiarity of the Paris Olympics 2024? Remember, whenever a question says that you have to answer this particular question as per the passage, it is expected that you are going to follow the passage language only, and this particular line signals you that you have to read the passage also. So in second question only, in this particular set, this signal has been sent to the student that yes, you have to read the passage. Without reading the passage you cannot do so. And if you have been a smart student, you either had started reading passages as you saw the GK paper, or you must have attempted it in the later part of your exam. Let's look what is the peculiarity. So first is it symbolized an international post-pandemic vibe set. So yes, this is what has been this is what is the conclusion of the first passage, first paragraph in the first passage itself. What is option number B? The opening ceremony took place outside a stadium. Yes, this is also true, because this particular ceremony took place along the Seine River. That is also one of the questions. Third is it is one of the most elaborate cultural rituals since COVID. Again, this is also a true statement supported by the passage. So I said you that these kind of questions could have been asked in your English or reasoning section also. But you can see that if even if I can say that A and B are correct, obviously D is going to be the option, and that is the correct answer for 26. Option number D is the correct answer. Moving on to the next question. Which of the following incidents support the argument that the geopolitical backdrop for the Paris Games is no less troubling? So again, this would require you to read the passage, because yes, the immigrant influx into Europe is a problem. But was as per the passage, was it in the backdrop of the Paris Olympics? I don't think so, because if you will read the passage, then you would see that immigrant influx into Europe is not something which the passage is talking about. And many a times I have asked my students to always pay attention to the question, because here also you would see that incidents which are being talked into this particular passage can only be accounted for when you are answering this question. So yes, this particular passage talks about the Israel-Hamas conflict. So yes, this was in news. Second, the immigrant influx into Europe, that might be a problem, but this is not of concern to us when it's come to this particular question. Political stability of French government. Now, if you would have been following news, you would have known that the French government has been politically unstable. They have been politically unstable. A far right party has come into power, not come into power, but has given challenge to the Macron government. So here you would not have been able to mark it correctly or incorrectly on the basis of the passage only. You need to have prior knowledge of what was happening, and only if you have been following news regularly around the Paris Olympics, then you would have easily marked that this is also an incorrect statement. So if you would have marked D, then it would have been incorrect statement, because the correct answer for 27 is going to be A only. Okay, moving on to the next question. Which one of the following is true? Tokyo Olympics was better than Beijing Olympics. So it's a very general statement. I don't think if you will read the passage, nothing is going to show that this was better or that was better, because Tokyo and Beijing, if you will read the passage also, you would see that in both Tokyo and Beijing, which took place in 2020 and 2022, because of COVID-19 restriction, many people were not able to participate. It was not a fully public event. So obviously this statement is going to be false only. So this is not true. Next is spectator thronged for a post-COVID sporting experience. Yes, this is true. I know this is true, because this is what is the theme of this passage only. This is the correct theme of this passage. Olympics games are unaffected by conflicts in a region. This is what the passage is arguing against, that your Olympic games specifically, or this particular Olympic games, were affected by conflicts in that particular region. It is basically talking about your Israel-Hamas war. which was happening in the context of this particular war and your Russia-Ukraine war also. So I could have argued that it is asking about by conflicts in a region. France is a country in Europe. Israel, Hamas exactly do not fall in Middle East, but at least Russia-Ukraine war is also happening, and this passage talks about that also. So obviously, this is also a false statement. So only correct statement is going to be option number B. Okay? Okay, moving on to the next one. The highest Olympic medal tally for India was at. So we had discussed all of these facts when we discussed Paris Olympics in detail in our classes. And the highest Olympic medal tally for India was at the 2020 Olympics, which was the best ever performance by an Indian contingent. So the correct answer for 29 is going to be D. I expect my students to answer it without reading the passage, but you could have answered this particular question by reading the passage also, provided you were aware that Beijing Olympics, which is being talked about here in the 2020 Olympics, is basically a winter Olympics, and India actually also did not had any kind of medals in that particular. Moving on to the next question. Where is the opening ceremony of the Paris Olympics 2024 held? So I've already told you while we were discussing the passage, the correct answer is basically A. Seine River is the river along which this particular opening ceremony took place, and it was for the first time that an opening ceremony took place outside a stadium. Moreover, if you look at the passage there, the river has been said, not exactly the name of the river, but river has been said. And if you look at the other option, Versailles Palace, Eiffel Tower, Arc de Triomphe, all of these are not exactly reversed. So yes, the correct answer for 30 is going to be A. Okay, moving on. Okay, so these were the questions from your first passage. Now let's look at the second passage. Again, the second passage was another passage which was covered by us in our most important topic series also, which is basically talking about your BRICS and its importance. So rather than asking you factual question, in this particular passage, again passage based question have been asked, but again this would have helped you a lot if you had prior knowledge of BRICS and what it signifies. But again, I would say without reading the passage, without using critical reasoning, you would not have been able to answer it. So if you look at the 16th BRICS summit has been discussed in detail. What is the outcome? What is the view of Jim O'Neill, who basically came up with this particular idea? And here Jim O'Neill has stated that this particular BRICS has now become a symbolic annual gathering rather than being an actual competitor to economic dominance of the US, etc. So this is what Jim O'Neill's view is there. However, if you will look at the passage as a whole, you would find out that this passage is arguing that BRICS is a very good idea, and it is basically acting as a geopolitical grouping, which is successful in absence of US also. Okay, and on this particular basis, certain questions have been framed. So let's look at question number 31. The 16th BRICS summit achieved the following: launch of BRICS currency. Obviously, we know this by our knowledge also that in the 16th BRICS summit, no kind of BRICS currency has been launched. However, there was a talk about it, but no launch has taken place. Okay, so this becomes important for you. So obviously, this is not correct. Next is de-escalation of Russian-Ukraine conflict. If you will read the last line of the passage, you would see that Ukraine has been talked only once in this particular passage. So obviously, this was also not one of the thing which was tackled by 16 BRICS summit. Third is diplomatic dialogue between India and China. And yes, this is one of the outcome of the 16 BRICS summit also. Okay, so the correct answer for 31 is going to be C only. Okay, moving on. What does the letter S in BRICS stand for? It's a very easy question, and it is not a passage-based question. I'm sure all of you must have been able to attempt it clearly, which is basically D, South Africa. So your BRICS stands for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and in 2010, your South Africa also became a member of it. So this becomes also an easy question. 32 answer is going to be D. Moving on to the next one. So again, initiative of Big Cats Alliance refers to, I would say it's a very easy question because it is basically asking you what all kind of big cats are covered in your International Big Cat Alliance. We know that 7 kinds of big cats are covered by this initiative of Big Cat Alliance. Again, this is not a passage-based question. This is, I would say, a knowledge-based question or a general understanding of this particular alliance would help you to answer it. And if you will look at the option, you would see that all of these are part of your Big Cat Alliance also. Okay, so the correct answer for 33 is going to be D. Moving on to the next question, which statement reflects as a critique from the Western economists? So it is basically asking you that what is the critique or what is the criticism of BRICS as per the Western economics, and you have to look at the Jim O'Neill view which is provided in the passage. So first is BRICS currency cannot displace dollars. So it is a far-fetched statement, and this is not supported by the passage also. Asian economies will not impact Western economies. This is also not being talked about here. On the contrary, it argues that your BRICS is a very important organization, represents a very large strata of population as well as a very large strata of your economy. India-China conflicts will impact progress of BRICS. This is what is the theme of, or this is what Jim O'Neill was focusing on, that because of India-China conflict, your BRICS progress is going to get impacted. Okay, so correct answer for 34 is going to be C only. Moving on to the next question, question number 35, the emergence of BRICS signal. So again, it's a passage-based question, but you would need to have some understanding of how important BRICS is, in which kind of spheres BRICS actually works, so that you are able to properly answer it. So options are Asian consolidation of economic power. So yes, there is Asian consolidation, but if you will look at the composition of BRICS, you see that there is country of Brazil, there is a country of South Africa, which is not actually Asian powers. Yes, there are three Asian power: Russia, India, China. And if we look at the current new members also, you would see many members are from the Asian continent only, but still this is not supported by the passage. So obviously this is not correct. Option number B, diminishing European dominance. So again, BRICS is not exactly there to counter European dominance, because if I talk about European dominance, I'm not talking about the US in general. So again, I would say this is also not correct. Let's look at option C, revival of non-aligned movement. Again, this is not true, because if you will look at the functioning of BRICS, Russia or China at least are using it as a counter to US. So I cannot say that it is a non-aligned movement. So there are certain sides which even India has to choose in different conflicts. And let's look at option number D, geopolitics without US dominance. And this is the main theme of this passage. And this is the correct answer for you. So the correct answer for 35 is going to be D. Let's look at question number 36. Which one of the below is an outcome of the 16th BRICS summit? Proposal to end Russia-Ukraine war. Obviously, this is not being talked about in this particular passage. This was not in issue, or this was not considered an outcome of 16th BRICS summit. B is to expand BRICS by including Scandinavian countries. Also, this is not something which BRICS relate to. Option number C, to recognize China's claim of Taiwan. Obviously, this is not something which is also supported by the BRICS members, specifically India, because India does not want to anger its Western counterparts, as well as Taiwan, with which India also have some important economic and defense relations also. And yes, D, reducing tension between India and China. Yes, this is the correct answer for this. You could have answered it by reading the passage also, but my advice would have been that if you would have used knowledge also, you could have easily answered this particular question. Okay, so we are done with two passages. I would say both the passages were on the easier side only. Let's look at passage number 3. Okay, so third passage is basically, I would say, a passage from some previous year, because it is basically talking about Article 370 and how Article 370 was removed, and how your Jammu Kashmir state was divided into two different UTs, one of Jammu and Kashmir, and the other being your Ladakh region only. And I would say this would again be a very easy passage, because if you will look at the questions, all of the questions are again passage based. Okay, so let's straightforward move to the questions. I don't want to take too much of your time. Okay, so question number 37 is, which of the following statement regarding Article 370 of the Constitution of India is correct? So it is basically asking you what is the main purpose of Article 370. And if you will look at option number A, it gave special status to the erstwhile state of Jammu and Kashmir. You would find out that yes, this is the correct answer. So you don't even have to read option B, C, D in this particular case. But my suggestion had been, specifically for students who are going to give it next year, that always read all the options. You might be this might be a correct statement, but it is possible that you might have a better option also in this particular case. So for question 37, the correct answer is going to be A. Moving on to the next question, a very easy question. The Jammu Kashmir Reorganization Act 2019 divided the erstwhile state of Jammu and Kashmir into which of the following? Two state, one UT, two UTs, one state, and two UTs. So we have discussed this also. Your Jammu and Kashmir, state of Jammu and Kashmir, was divided into two different UTs, one being Jammu and Kashmir and the other being your Leh Ladakh. Okay, so again you can see that in doing these question number 37, 38, you actually do not require any kind of passage reading. You could have easily done it by your knowledge base also. Okay, moving on to the next question. which of the following UTs of India has a legislative assembly? So we know this, that there are certain UTs, union territories, which have a legislative assembly. For example, there are 3 UTs in India which have a legislative assembly. The first being the Jammu Kashmir, second being your Puducherry, and your third being your NCT of Delhi. So there are 3 union territories which have a legislative assembly. And if we look at the option here, Jammu and Kashmir is also mentioned, and this is also the context of this particular passage. So correct answer for 39 is going to be B. Moving on to a very, very easy question, which is basically asking you how many states and UTs are present in India. And I expect, even if you would not have been a CLAT student, if you are a patriotic Indian, I would suggest that you should know that how many states and UTs we have in India. And I'm very sure many of the faculties would not even know how many states and UTs we have in India. So we have 28 states and 8 UTs. There have been certain changes because of Jammu and Kashmir. There was change regarding that. Earlier we had 2 different, Daman and Diu and Dadar and Nagar Haveli were 2 different UTs, but now we have a single UT. And now the composition of your states and UT is 28 states and 8 UTs, which brings the total number to 36 entities. Okay, so we have discussed all of these things also. So again, for this question also, you could have saved your time, and the correct answer 40 is going to be A only. Moving on to the next question, which among the following is the capital city of the Union Territory of Ladakh? If you will look at the option, if you will read the passage, if you would have paid attention to the classes also, you would remember that Changthang, Dras, and Nubra were not even districts earlier, and they have recently been made a districts in the state of Ladakh, in the UT of Ladakh. And we know this, that Leh is capital of Ladakh also. It is also a common knowledge. So the correct answer for 41 is going to be A. Again, this question, I would say that all of the question from this passage would be knowledge based question, and passage reading would not have been required. And even if you would have read passages, then also I would say it would have been difficult to answer these particular passage question just by using the passage information only. Finally, let's look at question number 42. Which of the following is false? Kargil was formerly a UT. We know this is not true, because Kargil was a district in your state, in your UT of Ladakh, which was earlier part of state of Jammu and Kashmir. So this is not true. This is a false statement. Ladakh is administered by Jammu and Kashmir Assembly. This is also a false statement, because it is a union territory. Because Ladakh is a union territory, this is being administered by your union government only. And third, 15 new districts were formed to be part of Jammu and Kashmir in 2019. This is also a false statement. If you will read the passage, okay, so I would say that for to answer this, if you don't know this particular thing, then you have to go through the passage, and it says that now not 15 but 28 new districts have been created. So obviously this is also a false statement, which means all three are false, and all of the above are false statement. Again, many students might have missed out on that. It is asking you a false statement, not a true statement. Okay, so the correct answer 42 is going to be D. Okay, let's look at the next passage. Again and again, the next passage is basically talking about your Women Reservation Act. Again, we had discussed this in detail. This was part of your MIT series. It was one of the top 10 topics, I would say in the top 5 of this year's GK, most important or most expected topics of this year. And again, I would say that yes, you had to read the passage also to attempt all of the question, because if you will look at the second paragraph of this particular passage, here one person's view has been provided regarding women representation in India, and a specific kind of argument has been provided that how women representation is not exactly helping women in general, and there is only representation of women from political families only. So this is the argument which is made in the second paragraph, and accordingly this particular passage or this particular para has been framed as a question for you also. Okay, in the third passage also, again another author's argument has been provided, and again this has been critiqued from both sides. And finally, it is talking about Article 330A and 332. To answer the question related to Article 330A and 332, again passage reading would not have helped you, and you had to use your knowledge also to answer it. So let's look at the questions. So the first question is, the Nari Shakti Vandan Adhiniyam 2023 will come into force from January 2025. Obviously, this is a false statement. We are going to discuss why. Will come to force after all the states and UT approve it. This is also false, because this has already been approved. And third, will come to force after census. We know that this is a correct statement, because as per your Nari Adhiniyam Act, your Nari Shakti Vandana Adhiniyam, it has been stated that this particular act is going to become applicable, this women reservation going to applicable once we conduct the delimitation exercise after the next census. So whenever we would have the next delimitation exercise, and a delimitation can only take place after we conduct a census, which means the correct answer for 43 is going to be C. Okay. So again, I'm sure you did not have to read passage to answer this particular question. Let's look at question number 44. I would say that to answer 44 and 45, you have to read this particular passage because these are specifically passage based question. So, as per Rudolf Heredia, women's political leadership depends upon mentorship of spouse political affiliation. So, again, this is the correct answer because if you will read the passage, it is being stated that political families, the women's need to have political background to make out something, to make out their living in the political sphere. So, yes, for 44, the correct answer is going to be A. Parental guidance, property inheritance, it is not supported by, or this is not the argument of Rudolf Heredia in this particular passage. Let's look at question number 45. According to Somya Bhaumik, the quotas for women should. So again, this is also passage based, and I would say that this would require critical reasoning for you to answer. So should require a top-down model. This is not true, simply because it is asking that there should be a bottoms-up model for this. It will fulfill a descriptive representation. This is also correct, partially correct. C, transform to substantive representation. This is the correct answer. I would say C is the correct answer. To be implemented homogeneously, this is also not a correct statement as per the passage understanding. If you will look at Somya Bhaumik recommendation for women quota, you would see that finally it wants to transform the women representation into substantive representative, so that all the heterogeneous population of India, all the heterogeneous women population of India also get represented in the Indian political scene. So the correct answer for 45 is going to be C. I would also say that B could also be an answer in the final answer key because this is also not exactly incorrect. But I would say that for question 45, the correct answer should be C. And let's look at question number 46. The amendment to Article 330A and 332 aims to appoint Rajya Sabha members based on cultural diversity. If I go by the passage understanding, nothing of such sort has been talked about in this passage. B is quota for women governors. Again, this is also not something which is mentioned in the passage. And if you have prior knowledge of Article 330A and 332, which we had discussed, this is also not something which is being talked in these articles. Third, women sportsperson, nothing is being talked about in the passage. And also, prior knowledge of Article 330A and 332 would let you know that this is also not supported. So the correct option for 46 is going to be D. So you can see that more in many cases, D, none of the above has been the option. And because students usually have the inclination to mark one of the statement based questions, so this is I would say a tricky part of this particular passage or this particular GK section. Okay, so again we are done with this passage. Also, let's look at the next passage. So again, another passage has been asked from your static GK portion, but again, if you had paid attention in class, if you would have gone through our modern history classes, I am sure you must have been able to do this particular question, which is basically talking about the civil disobedience movement. But it is also talking around civil disobedience movement, different movements which took place before civil disobedience movement, and certain protests, certain other movements which were the outcome of civil disobedience movement. And on this particular basis, certain questions have been created. So passage reading would have helped you, but I would say that if you would have prior knowledge civil disobedience movement, this would have been a cakewalk for you. Okay, so let's look at the questions which have been asked. Which event in Indian history marked the beginning of the civil disobedience movement? So again, if you will read the passage, this is not clearly mentioned in the passage, but if you would have prior knowledge of it, that your civil disobedience movement basically begin with the commencing of the Dandi March or Salt March, which was done by Mahatma Gandhi. So the correct answer for 47 is going to be B. Again, I repeat, this particular passage question could not be answered by reading the passage. You need to have prior knowledge of this particular movement. Moving on to the next question. Question number 48, which of the following is true in the context of civil disobedience movement? So this would require some reading of the passage, but without reading the passage also you would be able to answer it. The Indian industries preferred partnership with MNC. This is obviously not true because at that time we were a British colony and none of the British companies were ready to partner with an Indian industrialist. So obviously this is not true. The Indian industrialists were concerned of disruption of business. Yes, this is a true statement, and again, this is one of the major themes of this particular passage. So yes, this is true. But let's look at option C and D also. The working class rejected the civil disobedience movement. This one is partially true because your working class rejected a civil disobedience movement except Nagpur region. So I cannot say that this is fully true. This is partially true only, and I would say it's more on the false side. Okay, so this is also not correct. And the round table conference was a partial success. This is also a false statement, which is supported by the passage reading also. So the correct answer for 48 is going to be B. Moving on to the next question, which of the following was the predicament for Congress? This particular question would require you to read the passage, then only you would be able to answer it. Option number A, danger of division of opposition to the British government. This is the correct answer for question number 49, loss of faith by marginal section in Congress. This is not something which is being talked by this particular passage. Falling value of rupee against sterling, although it is being talked about it, but this is not mentioned as a predicament for Congress, but it is a predicament. It was a predicament as per the passage for the industrialist. So the correct answer for 49 is going to be A, because if you will read the passage, this is why the Congress was not ready to support the workers' movement against the industry, because they did not wanted to do a division among the industries, or they did not wanted that the support of the industry should go away. Okay, let's look at question number 50. Which of the following statement is correct with reference to the civil disobedience movement? It encouraged militancy among workers. So if you will read the passage, you would see that many kind of protests took place at this particular time. Breaking of the salt law, manufacturing salt, and demonstration it in front of government salt factories. So this is also something which is also being talked about by the passage. It urged the industrialists to accept socialism. So yes, this is also a correct statement. So I would say for question number 50, the correct answer is going to be D. Moving on to the last two questions from the GK section. Okay, so and then we are done with the GK section. Question number 51. Which among the following mass movement was supported by the Indian industrialists? Home rule movement, civil disobedience movement, non-cooperation movement, quit India movement. So the correct answer is option number C. But I would say that just by reading the passage, you would not have been able to answer it. Because if you look at para 1 of this particular passage, there no confidence motion, no non-cooperation movement has been talked about, but non-cooperation movement has not been mentioned there. Only general thing about 1920 to 1922 has been mentioned in this particular case. So for question number 51, you need to have prior knowledge of your national movement. Okay, and let's look at the final question. Which of the following can be considered as a major outcome of civil disobedience movement? A partial support of working class. So if you will look at the passage, this is a correct statement. Galvanizing women in political sphere. Again, this is also true, because during Dani March, many women came out in support of Mahatma Gandhi to listen to him and to demonstrate and protest also. And option number C, socialist influence among the Congress cadre. This has been the theme. This has been the theme of your national movement, that after the non-cooperation movement or after the entry of Mahatma Gandhi, your socialism or your socialist influence basically started to dominate the Indian political scene also. So I would say all option A, B, C, D, A, B, C are correct. So the correct answer for question number 52 is going to be D. Okay, students, I hope this particular you have your answers now, and I'm sure you must be having the same answer or the same correct answer as I mentioned. So because I want that you score 28 out of 28 in this particular exam. Okay, so best of luck for your results, and I have to see you soon with flying colors. Okay, so thank you, and now Vipin sir is going to take the legal reasoning section with you.
Okay. So here is the legal reasoning section. So the first impression is question paper was very easy. All the questions were directly asked from the passage itself. Yes, just like GK, they have tested your prior legal knowledge. But yes, I tell you, all the questions were directly from the CLATPREP mock. All the topics that you read entire year were the part of your legal portion. We will be discussing now. So the first passage here talks about the Indian Contract Act. What is void contract? What is voidable contract? All this has been given in the passage. Now, directly jumping to the question, which of the following best describes a void agreement? The correct answer is B, the agreement that has no legal effect from the beginning. We all know the void, what is void agreement. So void agreement, correct answer is B. The agreement that has no legal effect from the beginning is known as void agreement. Moving ahead with question number 54, the contract between two parties to rob a bank and share proceeds equally can be termed as, again, so robbing a bank is illegal, and any illegal agreement will be considered as a void agreement. The correct answer is 54A. Again, very easy question. Question number 55, again, very easy. So, an agreement made by an adult but involving a minor. So, any agreement with the involvement of minor is void. So, the correct answer of the 55 is C. Now, moving ahead with next question. Which of the following scenarios would most likely to be result in a void agreement? Now, this is a very tricky question. Option A, option B, completely ruled out. Option number C, an agreement to pay 10 lakhs on getting a government job. You are bribing a person. Bribing is a crime, right? The correct answer would be C. A contract with a minor who understands the terms. This is void in 99% cases, but if you are supporting necessity to the minor, then you can contract with a minor, right? But yes, if I have to choose one, then it would be correct, because you are bribing for a government job. So it is also a very easy question. If you would have applied your a bit of knowledge, legal knowledge, then you would have marked this. 57, again, very easy question. An agreement made without consideration is generally void agreement. So if there is no consideration, we know that consideration is essential for a valid form of contract. So if there is no consideration, the agreement is void. Now, passage solved. Very easy. I am expecting nothing below 30 in the legal reasoning section, because I have clearly told that all the questions were very easy, direct from the passage, and all the topics that we discussed in our class, right? Now, moving ahead with question passage number, next passage. Supreme Court has declared right to privacy as a fundamental right in Puttaswamy judgment, right? After that, Supreme Court recognized under Article 21 right to privacy, digital privacy. Then government enacted a Personal Data Protection Act in 2023. Now, this passage talks about consent of the users, right? When a person can withdraw the consent, how much data you can utilize, what are the obligation when you are sharing the personal information with the third party, right? So this passage, you should have spent some time in this passage. And again, all the question in this passage are directly from the passage. An Indian company collects personal data from its user to provide personalized services. The company intends to share this data with a third party vendor for targeted advertisement. Under the Digital Personal Data Protection Law in India, what must the company do before sharing the data? So the correct answer would be A, obtain explicit consent from the user. This is given in the passage that before utilizing a personal data, you have to tell the customer that we are using this particular data for that particular purpose, right? This is clearly given in the passage. Now, moving ahead with question number 59. So, a social media platform, right? A social media platform processes user data based on the consent given during an account creation. So whenever you create social media account for Facebook, for Instagram, they ask for a consent. A user now wishes to withdraw consent to process their data. Now, in the passage, it is clearly written that I can withdraw my consent at any point of time. Under the Digital Personal Data Protection Law in India, what must the platform do? Question number 59, answer is B. Comply with the legal requirement and stop processing the data. I have clearly told this. Now, moving ahead with question number 60. A financial institute collects biometric data from its clients for verification purposes. If the clients wish to know what data has been collected, under the Digital Personal Data Protection Law in India, what rights allow them to request this information? So this information known as question number 60, the answer is right to access, right? So 60, C is the correct answer. Now, moving ahead with question number 61, right? A startup provides a health tracking app that collects sensitive health data from users under the Digital Personal Data Protection Law in India. What additional precautions must the startup take compared to regular personal data? Question number 61, answer is very easy. Ensure explicit consent and adopt higher security standards, because you have a higher standard of duty when you are maintaining healthcare duties, right? So 61 answer is 61 answer is B. Now moving ahead with question number 62. As per the passage, what are the rights included under Digital Protection Law of India? Rights to get the summary of collected data, clearly written in the passage. Right to know to whom the data has been shared, clearly given in the passage. Right to correct and update the data, obviously, right? Right to get the data removed from the database, yes, right? Right to decide on who can receive their data. Right to get redressal of grievances. All options are correct. D is the correct answer, right? Question number 62, D is the correct answer. Very easy passage. Now, moving ahead with this, right? So Public Examination Prevention of Unfair Means Act, government brought this after a neat controversy, and all this happened throughout the year, and government brought this law, right? Penalties have been given, 5-year penalty, imprisonment up to 1 crore of fine, malpractices, right? So we'll directly move to the passage. A question: a bill become an act only when, right? Very, very easy question. A bill becomes act only when it is approved by the President of India, right? So the correct answer for question number 63 is D. Moving ahead with, now, a service provider engaged by public examination authority for conduct of examination indirectly helped his family member by giving hint on question that were supposed to be asked in the examination shell. So the answer for 64 would be C. To be liable, punished with imprisonment of fine up to 1 crore, and it is given in the passage, and it is not or, it is and. So you have to keep this in mind, the cost of conduct of the examination, right? So the correct answer for question number 64 is C. Moving ahead with question number 65. An invigilator of a public examination found guilty of manipulating the sitting arrangements to favor his relative writing the public examination is punished by the court. Which among the following is the appropriate punishment as per the punishment mentioned in the above passage? Now, this question is very good question. Please do not get confused with the service provider. The passage clearly mentioned who is service provider. So invigilator is not a service provider. His punishment for this would be very limited. The correct answer is D. Imprisonment for 4 years and fine up to 5 lakh rupees, right? So the correct answer would be D. Now, moving ahead with question number 66. Identify which of the following is not an unfair means relating to conduct a public examination. Now, this is a very, very easy question. I would say most easiest question of the legal reasoning section. Coaching centers conducting mock test for students can never be a unfair practice, right? 66, correct answer is A. Now, moving ahead with question number 67. Who among the following is not a service provider in the context of public examination? Again, coaching center which prepares students for passing in the public examination. So the correct answer is A, right? Again, very easy question. Now, moving on the question next passage. 42nd constitutional amendment. Now, I would like to know from you, this constitutional amendment is also known name with mini constitution, right? So it was brought in 1976, 42nd constitutional amendment. So many changes were made in Indian constitution through this amendment, right? Now, this has been a part of your CLAT question paper. Now, moving ahead with this, right? So this talks about clean environment, right? Now, in which among the following changes were introduced for environment protection through the Constitution of India? So fundamental duties mentioned, right? So there is a fundamental duty 51G, right? And directive principles of state policy, Article 48A, that deals with environment protection. So the answer would be B. For question number 68, the answer is B, right? So it has Article 42nd constitutional amendment. It has nothing to do with the fundamental rights with respect to environment law, right? Because the passage is on basically environment law. The nature of binding commitment of the India to reduce carbon emission through the signing of various international environment conservations treaties, especially the Paris agreements, may be described as, the answer of the 69 is A. The signatory shall take adequate measures to reduce carbon emission. What is the difference between all the answers? It is may, should, may. But if a treaty is binding, you have to, it is a duty, you have to enforce this, and the answer would be shall. The correct answer is A. Now, moving ahead with, under Article 51AG, the Indian Constitution is specifically mentioned that citizens shall have the duty to protect and improve the natural environment. That includes, now this has tested your legal or general knowledge of Indian polity. So it includes river and lake, it includes forest and wildlife. Now, if you are confused with this one, this cannot be correct technically, because if these two are correct, then I have only this option. Now I'll tell you what is the correct answer, what is the correct explanation. So it talks about protection of rivers, lakes, forest, and wildlife, but it says compassion towards living creature. So that is the terminology, right? It's a very good question, but this has tested your prior polity knowledge. Now, moving ahead with question number 71, right? As per the aforementioned passage and decisions of the Supreme Court, question number 71, the answer is state's duty to maintain ecological balance and citizens' right against climate change. So this passage, the fundamental duty to preserve and protect natural resources is upon the state only. So this is a correct answer, but more appropriate answer is D, because the passage talks about citizens' right against climate change. If you remember, if you have read the classes, we have discussed this in our class, that right against climate change, Supreme Court recognized under Article 21 of the Indian Constitution. Citizens alone have the fundamental duty to preserve and protect natural resources. Incorrect. Both the state and citizens have a duty to preserve. No, the passage does not talk about the duty of the citizen, right? So the correct answer is D. Now, moving ahead with, according to the passage, what makes India committed to reduce carbon emission? Now, the 72nd, the correct answer is because of being a signatory of International Environmental Conservation Treaty, Paris Act 2015, right? So, this is the correct answer. So, if you are signing an international agreement, it is a duty of a particular state that they have to ratify that, right? Now, moving ahead with question number 73. The passage mentioned that any disturbance with these basic elements of environment would amount to violation of Article 21. Now, easy question. Article 21 does not talk about right to equality. Article 14 talks about that. Right against exploitation, right to free of residence. So the correct answer is D, right to life and personal liberty. Clearly, Article 21 talks about right to life and personal liberty. The correct answer is 73D. Now, children come in contact with the criminal justice system either by victims or witness. So the passage is children in conflict with law and crime against children, right? So this talks about POXO, child in conflict with law, a bit of juvenile justice, and the data released by NCRB, right? So you have to keep this in mind. Very easy question. All the questions were directly from this passage only. Now, this talks about criminal justice system of any country, broadly refers to agency, and etc. All the details have been given in that. Now, which of the following issue children who are victim of violence during childhood face in life as per the author of the above passage? Question number 74, answer is D, all of the above. They may have difficulties in school, clearly given in the passage. They may abuse drugs or alcohol and suffer from mental health issues, clearly given in the passage. They may act aggressively and engage in criminal behavior, clearly given in the passage. This question is directly from the passage. The correct answer is D. Now, moving ahead with question number 75. What is the primary objective of criminal justice system as mentioned in the passage? So the idea of criminal justice is very broad, right? If we take the general answer, then rehabilitation of offender is correct. Punishment to the offender is correct, right? Every answer is correct, but they have specifically asked what is the primary object of the criminal justice system as mentioned in the passage. So the 75 correct answer is B, punishment of the offenders. This is clearly written in the passage, right? National Crime Records Bureau, NCRB, that works under Ministry of Home Affairs in India, is responsible for, the correct answer is 76C, compiling and analyzing crime data. Maintaining a national database of enforcement of criminal law, that is also correct, right? But more appropriate is compiling and analyzing the data, because in passage it is clearly given that these crimes have been increased in last years, right? So they are not only compiling, but they are analyzing as well, right? So the answer should be C, more appropriately. Which category had the highest number of cases under crime against children according to the NCRB report 2021? 77, the correct answer is B. right? So kidnapping and abduction was given in this, right? Now, moving ahead with question number 78. Which one of the following is the correct expansion of term POXO? Again, very easy question. 78. What is the answer? Protection of children from sexual offenses. It came in 2012. Very easy question, right? It is right. Now, what risk do children face when exposed to criminal justice system as per the passage? So the question number 79 answer is D. Limited access to vocational training, true. Exposed to risk of physical abuse, very true. Mental health challenges and behavioral disorder. So the correct answer is D. All of them are correct. Now, geographical indication, IPR, right? Very interesting passage. We know geographical indication, intellectual property that designs a product as originating from a specific geographical location. For example, Banarasi Pan, right? We must have heard about Darjeeling tea. So this is originating from a particular place. And yes, the other person belonging to a different religion can't use it, right? That would be a violation of Geographical Indication Act. Which of the following statement about geographical indication is not true? Right? Not true. Question number 80, the answer is C. Geographical indication can be used to any product which is licensed regardless of its place of origin. The entire story is all about the place of origin only. Therefore, C is technically incorrect. Now, moving ahead with question number 81. If a product named Darjeeling tea is produced outside the Darjeeling region, which of the following legal actions is likely to be taken under GI protection laws? The correct answer is B. The use of the GI Darjeeling tea can be legally contested and potentially prohibited. This is what I just said before few minutes. Which of the following is not a potential consequences of misuse of geographical indication? The correct answer is C. Compulsory licensing on the patents of misusing entity. So this does not talk about compulsory licensing. Loss of consumer, this will happen definitely. Decrease in the market value of a GI protected product. Potential legal action of infringement against the misuse. Very true. Now, question number 83. The context of GI, which of the following scenario best illustrates the concept of geographical origin? Now, the question answer is C. A product is identified by a GI name that corresponds to the region where it is traditionally made, cultivated with distinctive quality due to that location. Right? Now, last question for legal section. Choose the most appropriate objective of the TRIP agreement concerning geographical indication. The correct answer is B. To ensure uniform product labeling standards globally. So this is all about your legal reasoning section. Again, this was very easy paper. All the questions you can solve directly from the passages. Yes, few questions tested your legal knowledge, your polity knowledge, but yes, nothing below 30, right? Because we have solved all the questions we have solved from directly from the passage only. So all the best. Next would be your CR, most anticipated session, right? Please come now.
Okay, hello everybody. Here we are with our logical reasoning section. Okay, now overall logical reasoning section as expected was of a moderate difficulty level. One wouldn't call it very easy, but many of the questions were very easy, direct questions. Some questions were tricky. Okay, and the passages overall, I wouldn't say there were any difficult passages. They were all straightforward, but some of the questions were a little tricky. Now, a surprise in this section was that one set of analytical reasoning questions was also present. So many of you would have found it surprising, but those of you who have attended classes for other exams like AILET, etc., would not have found this much of a problem. Okay, now let us quickly look at the logical reasoning questions. Okay, the first set here, this is a very common pattern. In all our mock tests also, we have given similar questions. That is, imagine that you are a consultant, right? So that is the set here. I'm not going to read the entire set, but as a consultant, this passage says your work consists of an examination of the company's environment, etc., and suggesting solutions. It says that you need to look at various operations, supply chains, all these aspects. Communication and people management are also very important for a consultant in order to get acceptance from all these stakeholders. Okay, so that is what this passage talks about. Let us look at each of the questions. This was a very, very easy set, very doable set. Those who prepared well would have been able to do all the questions here, I feel. Let's quickly look at the questions. What is the primary responsibility of you being a company's efficient consultant? Okay, so what does the passage say? The passage says that as a consultant, your work consists of a deep examination of the company's environment and its internal system to notice inefficiencies and potential improvements. So deep examination means what? Let us see, analyzing the organization's structure, processes, market position. All these have been mentioned in the passage. So it is easy to pick this. The other options, managing daily operations, obviously not a consultant's job. Hiring new employees, conducting maintenance, just common sense that these are not a consultant's job. Right? So we have A as the answer. With whom does a consultant work closely to understand a company's goals and challenges? Again, it is a common sense question, but the passage does mention right in the beginning that a consultant has to work very closely with the company's management and different sections. So we have that as the answer. Okay, higher management and various departments. Very easy. Next question. Imagine yourself as a consultant and find what methods you will use to develop customized solutions. Customized solutions means what? Solutions that are suitable for your customers. Customized doesn't come from customers. Customized means tailor made for a particular body. Okay, so would you use intuition and guesswork? Would you use social media trends? Would you use random selection? I am sure no student would have picked any of these options. Data analysis, industry best practices, and innovative strategies also mentioned in the passage. If you have any doubt, please go and check. Easy question. Okay. Now, moving on. Which of the following might a consultant optimize to improve efficiency? It is not there specifically, but then the passage does say that the consultant has to study the systems, right? Study the systems and processes in order to come up with an optimal solution. Okay, so systems and processes, this might entail operations such as logistics redesign, business process re-engineering, adopting new application systems, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so what does that mean? That means that the consultant has to optimize everything to do with the systems. So would it be office decoration? Here we are talking of operational efficiency. So office decoration has nothing to do with a consultant's job, right? I'm sure all of you would agree. Supply chain management. Supply chain management is to do with logistics. It is to do with operations. And we just saw that that is an aspect mentioned in the passage. Hence, that is our answer. Employee dress code. What does that have to do with efficiency? Lunch menus, what does it have to do with efficiency? Absolutely nothing. Hence, our answer is option B. Moving on, why is communication the most relevant thing for a consultant? Towards the end of the passage, it's the author says that it is very important to get a buy-in from all the stakeholders. So let us see, to ensure all stakeholders understand the proposed changes. right? To organize consumer meets, to update the company website, manage the human resources out of scope. Though it is mentioned that they need to pay attention to human resources, communication is not important to manage the human resources because it is a consultant we are talking about, not a human resource manager. What additional support might a consultant provide to help the team adapt to new processes? Now, this has to be within the scope of the passage, hence, it should be training and support. All of the others are outside the scope of the passage. You should not use your imagination. Okay, so that set is done. That was a very easy set. Now, this one is about lifestyle changes in India, right? India is poised for economic growth. Associated with that, there are several lifestyle changes, and what is happening as a result of that. On the whole, the author is of the opinion that these lifestyle changes are detrimental to the welfare of the society or to the welfare of youth. Okay, so here let us look at the, so it has talked about junk food, it has talked about smartphones, how all these things are harmful. Okay, let us look at the questions. Based on the above passage, which of the following should be the most suitable title for the passage? We just saw that all of the changes are related to lifestyle, right? Everything is related to lifestyle. So, lifestyle and mental health. Okay, it is about the mental health implications of lifestyle. I am not going to read the entire passage to you, but mental health is what the passage is talking about. Now, why not economic growth and mental health? You may feel that economic growth is mentioned in the beginning, so why can't we take that? Right, India is poised for rapid economic growth, but that is only the context, dear students, please note. Okay, that is not the reason. Economic growth has led to lifestyle changes, and then how lifestyle changes have affected the mental health of the students. The other options should be easy to eliminate, right? Impact of technology, it's not just technology. Language and cultural change out of context, hence lifestyle and mental health. Now, technology is an improved means to an unimproved end. Which of the following closely reflects the meaning of the given statement? Okay, that is the question here. It's a quote from the passage. Let us see. New technologies have to be accepted by primarily focusing on its positive results. No, new tech. Why no? This quote is in the context. See, it says that these gadgets have been given to the adolescents by default, and it has led to harmful consequences. And then in this context, they are quoting this person, right? Thoreau. And the author themselves says that it is an extreme position, but we may need to consider it. Okay, so let us see here. New technologies have to be accepted by focusing on its positive results. No, it's not about the positive results, right? We have to be wary of the negative results. That is the focus here. Hence, they create a hindrance to the physical health. The passage is about mental health. Poor mental health is a result of the invention of new technologies. Extreme statement. It is only one of the factors, obviously. D is the answer. New technology should be looked upon with skepticism, considering its negative impact. We have to be wary. Skepticism is an element of doubt. We need to be careful, is what the author is saying. Which of the following statements strengthens the author's argument regarding the negative use of smartphones among the youths? I will spend a little time on this because it is a bit of a tricky question. Okay. Excessive use of smartphones may lead to weakened family relationships. Now, that is something that is already mentioned in the passage. So, for a strengthening and weakening question, normally we look for hypothetical options, right? So, let us keep this here. However, this does strengthen the author's perspective, right? It does strengthen the author's perspective. So let us see. Let us look at the next option. There has to be an unhindered use of smartphones. That obviously is against the author's perspective. Unhindered use of smartphones is something the author would not advise. Smartphones have economic usefulness? No. These two are positives. The author is focusing on the negatives. Ownership of smartphones at an early age results due to lack of care by parents. Okay, so now this is something that we need to consider. Yeah, this is something we need to consider because the author says that ownership of smartphones is often because the parents they just give it to them without thinking much, right? The passage does mention that. So this is definitely something that strengthens the author's argument. However, if we are to include things that are alluded to in the passage and mentioned in the passage, then both A and D are alluded to in the passage. Though D is more of an inference and A is directly given, so we would go for D, but A and D are extremely close. I would say this is a bit of a tricky question. Now let us look at the next one. Which of the following can be a plausible solution? Plausible is feasible, credible, for better mental well-being. Very easy because of the options. Okay, limiting the correlation between physical and mental health. Physical health is not really within the scope of this passage, and the passage has nothing to do with the relationship between physical and mental health. Limiting the research on excessive use of smartphones. Why do we need to limit the research on phones? Limiting the widespread consumption of ultra processed foods, directly mentioned as a problem in the passage. Limiting the informed use of smartphones. If the use of smartphones is informed and wise, we don't need to limit it. C is the answer. Which of the following statements by the author lack credible evidence in the passage? Again, a little bit of a tricky question. Okay, let us see. Excessive mobile usage linked to mental health issues. The author is saying that there is evidence, right? The context of the passage is that a study has shown that there are recent findings based on a large database of individuals in India are beginning to shed light on the correlates of mental well-being among adolescents, and in that definitely smartphones are there and consumption of ultra processed foods are also there. Okay, so yeah, excessive mobile usage linked to mental health issues. Yes, we have to take it that there is evidence. The only tricky part is that the author has not specified for which elements we have evidence and for which elements there is no evidence. That may be a bit tricky for some. Okay, providing mobiles to adolescents resulting in mental stress. Okay, mental stress is not directly mentioned in the passage, but then in the context of this, when we say that there are mental health issues, we can say that stress is an offshoot of that, right? Okay, students learning the English language have weakened family relationships. Now this we don't see any evidence. It is mentioned in the beginning that is one of the issues. However, after the study has been mentioned, it does not say that students learning the English language, this has weakened family relationships. That does not come in the evidence part. Inadequate sleep and junk food resulting in mental distress. Mental distress is absence of mental well-being. So this is the part which does not seem to have evidence. So we can go for option C. Okay. These gadgets are handed to adolescents, presumably more out of convenience than sound logic. This is a quote from the passage. Which of the following is the most suitable explanation echoed by the author as per the given statement? What does it mean? It simply means what does the author mean or what does the author imply by this statement? That is all. Okay, this, if you are not sure of the wordings, then you may be a little confused. Otherwise, it is straightforward when you look at the options. By logic, prevails over reasoning. Now, logic and reasoning are more or less the same. And here, what are they saying? They are saying that convenience prevails over logic. So, it is not logic prevailing over reasoning. Logic and emotions go hand in hand. There is no question of emotions here, right? We are talking of convenience. Logic taking a backseat over utility. Utility is convenience. So they are saying that gadgets are handed to adolescents presumably more out of convenience than logic. Okay, C is the right answer. Logic and benefits can never be understood together. Okay, benefits, if you take convenience as a benefit, you may get slightly confused probably, but no, this is an extreme statement. It says it can never be understood together. So that is a very extreme statement. I'm sure you guys would have eliminated it with a little thought. Okay, so a couple of tricky questions here. Overall, the set was doable. The key here would have been question selection. I hope you all did select your questions intelligently. Okay. Now, the next passage is about homelessness. Okay, a little complex passage. So, let me give you an overview because it has multiple ideas. The first para says that the majority of homeless groups exist in modernized cultures. However, it is a global problem. Okay, everywhere in the world, there is this problem of food, water, and shelter, and it explains the consequences. Originally, it was supposed to be a cultural problem, but now it has become a global problem. Okay, it is suffered by all of humanity, and hence it needs to be addressed at the global level. However, there is no global solution because the causes and consequences of homelessness are different in different parts of the world. Then the passage says, even the United States constantly struggles with homelessness despite being one of the wealthiest countries in the world. Okay, so it is not a problem of the poor part of the world alone. Then, according to a 2005 survey, now it says the number of people who lack adequate housing is quite large. Then the causes are given here, various causes. Okay, it says basically the root cause is a systemic failure to offer shelter and protection to the most vulnerable. Then again, some statistics. The urban areas experience higher rates of homelessness compared to rural areas. Okay. The COVID-19 pandemic has exacerbated homelessness and housing insecurity. So this is the consequence of the pandemic. Okay. Then using social distancing, all these, this is the consequence of the pandemic, how it has led to exacerbated the problem. The economic fallout from the pandemic has further strained, so everybody has faced economic problems during the pandemic, so that has also aggravated the problem. Fine. Now let us look at the questions. Okay, some tricky questions here also. Let us see. For the above paragraph, which of the following statements is true? Okay, let us see. When people in industrialized civilizations think of homelessness, they generally imagine third world countries where poverty is rampant. Well, is that so? We cannot really infer that directly from the passage. Though when the author says it is there even in the US, we may feel, oh, okay, fine. This feeling may come in our minds, but the passage does not mention this, nor does it allude to such a possibility that people usually think of something. Okay. Generally, the impoverished are thought of to exist in third world countries only, but they are present even in the largest cities of the world. Now, this is something which we are tempted to infer. However, the passage does not mention third world countries. It mentions the USA, yes, but then it says that they are present even in the largest cities of the world. The passage has not mentioned cities. It has not mentioned any city. So we have to tread with caution. Homelessness increases due to major turbulence on the economic and cultural aspects. Now, this may be confusing because the passage initially says that earlier it was thought to be a cultural phenomenon here. Although homelessness was originally believed to be a cultural problem, but it is now revealing itself as a global problem. Now, here it is not saying that it is not due to cultural issues. It is only saying it is not a culture specific problem. Okay, so you may feel the passage says it is not due to cultural factors. That is not what it is saying. It says it is not a culture specific problem, but it is a global problem. If we take it in that sense, yes, the passage does not mention cultural factors. However, here they are saying that family reasons are there, right? And then when we talk of support systems for individuals and families, etc., in the context of the economic factors, we can infer that cultural factors are also a reason. That is why, see, major turbulence on the cultural and economic front is COVID could be taken as an example of this. Okay, so we go for C. A tricky question, no doubt. Okay, now we have, there are several causes of homelessness. Which of the following is the least likely cause of homelessness? Okay, this should be easy if you have read the passage carefully. Least likely cause: violence in the home, loss of job or income, substance abuse, or proper health care. Not having health care, how can it lead to homelessness? Now, the passage does not mention substance abuse. It does mention family factors. It does mention economic factors. Substance abuse, well, we can take it as a lifestyle factor, but lack of proper health care does not lead to homelessness, right? So it's more of a common sense question. Okay. Sorry. Let me go to the next question. Okay. 99. Homelessness in case of mental illness can be amplified because of the following reason. Now, again, when you see this question, you may feel it is not directly mentioned in the passage, so it is a difficult question. No, it's a common sense question. Okay, it's a very easy question. You just have to apply your logic based on what you read in the passage. The answer is simply all of the above. I'm not reading all the options, but they are talking of which are the factors that could strengthen the argument that mental illness and homelessness are related. Okay, so D is the answer. Now, homelessness in reference to the above paragraph can be observed most closely in the form of, okay, again, when you look at the options initially, you may feel, oh, where is this written in the passage? Let us see. Inadequate entertainment avenues. Entertainment avenues? Can you infer anything like that? No. Shortage of appropriate clothing. You may feel, homelessness and clothing and shelter are related. Not really. Not really, right? Poor prospects for employment. Where is it written in the passage? It is written in the passage if you read it carefully. Okay, I am going to take you there because you may wonder where is it written in the passage. The COVID-19 pandemic has exacerbated homelessness and housing insecurity, leading to increased rates of eviction, unemployment, and housing instability. Now, did you get it? Okay, so homelessness here is reflected in the form of unemployment, hence poor prospects for employment. Okay, got it? Some of the questions are a bit tricky, but if you understand the overall central idea of the passage and the tone, then it shouldn't be a problem. Now, this question, it has a bit of an error. Okay, approximately how many people in America are currently experiencing homelessness on any given day? Little bit of a mathematical error here. Approximately 580,000 people. Now, what is given here? what is given here is, the options are 1 million people, more than 5.5 million people. Now, million and 100,000 is not the same, right? 3.5 million and 100 million. Hence, we will say that there is an error in this question. Okay, they have specified currently experiencing homelessness on a given day. So, 5.5 million is wrong. Okay, and there is no other possible answer. And one more question here. Which of the following is not a myth about people experiencing homelessness? Not a myth about people experiencing homelessness. People who are homeless choose to be so by themselves. Now, when you see the first option itself, you know that this is not something that is mentioned in the passage. So, you know you are expected to use your common sense and make inferences based on what is given in the passage. Choose. So, this could be a myth, right? That people who are homeless choose to be so, because the passage actually gives justifications for why people are homeless. People experiencing homelessness are lazy. That could be a myth too. All people who experience homelessness are addicts. That could be a possible myth. People experiencing homelessness find it difficult to obtain a job is not a myth, because it is written in the passage. We just saw that the passage mentions unemployment as a consequence of homelessness. So, this is not a myth. This is our answer. Now comes the surprise element in this section, which is an analytical reasoning set. Okay, so to address that set, my colleague Abhishek sir will join me.
Hello everyone, good evening. So let's quickly look at this set. So if you go through the details here, so it's talking about 9 people overall: Ram, Sham, Rohit, Mohit, Rohan, Sohan, Mohan, Rakesh and Suresh, right? Very confusing names to start off the set with, right? Are sitting around a circle facing the center. So the very first thing is, we need to draw a circle wherein there are 9 seats available. 7, 8, 9. All of them are facing the center, due to which their left and right will be defined in a certain way. All right. So, for example, person who is sitting here, his left will come on this side, and his right will be on this side. Right. So let me just remove this. Now let's read the set further. What else does it say? So it says Rohit is third to the left of Ram. So that means wherever I have Ram, 1 second please. All right. So wherever we have Ram, wherever we have Ram, Rohit is third to the left of this person, right? Third to the left would mean there are 2 people in between, and then you have Rohit, all right, like this. There will be 2 people in between. Rohan is fourth to the right of Ram. So wherever Ram is, fourth to the right would mean there are 3 people in between, and then you'll have Rohan. Mohit is fourth to the left of Suresh. So wherever Suresh, fourth to the left would mean 3 people in between, and then you'll have Mohit. Who is second to the right of Ram? So here this who refers to Suresh. So Suresh is second to the right of Ram. Second to the right would mean 1 person in between, and then you'll have Suresh. Sohan is third to the right of Sham. So wherever Sham is, I'll just write it here. third to the right of Sham, that means 2 people in between, will have Sohan. Mohan is not an immediate neighbor of Ram, we'll just remember that. Now, when you look at all these conditions, so first thing that should strike you is we're talking about Ram quite a lot. Let's start with that person, Ram. So let's assume Ram is sitting any place. See, this is the advantage in circular arrangement. We know that, right? We can start at any point. So let's assume this position out here is Ram. So this is Ram. According to the first condition, third to the left will be Rohit. So first to the left, second to the left, third to the left. So this person here is going to be Rohit. Fourth to the right is going to be Rohan. So from Ram, first to the right, second to the right, third to the right, and fourth to the right is going to be Rohan. Again, there is some more information about Ram. Second to the right from Ram is Suresh. So from Ram, second to the right is going to be Suresh. Now from Suresh, fourth to the left is going to be Mohit. So see, this way the conditions are all linked to each other. From Suresh, fourth to the left, first to the left of Suresh, second to the left, third to the left, fourth to the left is going to be Mohit. And then we have Sham and Sohan separated by 2 people, right? So Sohan is third to the right of Sham was a condition. Now in the remaining places, please notice this is one place which is remaining, one place, third and fourth. These are the 4 places which are remaining. I need to place these 2 people such that there are 2 people in between. Where can we place them? If you notice that carefully, there is only one possibility, one pair of positions, this one and this one. Nowhere else can these 2 persons be placed. And also third to the right of Sham. So that means Sham will definitely come here. And third to the right, first to the right, second to the right, third should be Sohan. And just 2 more people are left. Placement, look at this condition. Mohan is not an immediate neighbor of Ram. So Ram, adjacent person cannot be Mohan. So Mohan is going to be this individual here. And thus the last remaining person, which is Rakesh, has to come here. So this is going to be Rakesh. So now we are done with the arrangement of all the 9 individuals. We can now go ahead and start marking our answers, right? So let's start with the question. See, this particular set had a problem in it, right? For several questions, the answers did not match. Let's have a look at it. The arrangement is right in front of you. Please match it with yours. 103rd. What is Rakesh's position with respect to Rohan? So Rakesh is here and Rohan is somewhere here. So when I say position with respect to Rohan, it could be towards left also, left of Rohan. So Rakesh will be first, second, third to the left of Rohan, which is not there in the options, right? You see that? Also from the right, first to the right, second to the right, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth to the right hona chahiye. It should be 6 to the right. Now, do we have 6 to the right? Again, that is also not there. So this question was an error-based question, right? The options were not correct, right? They were not accurate, and you can look at the arrangement for that. 104. Who is third to the right of Mohan? So we have Mohan here. Third to the right is going to be first to the right, second to the right, third to the right. My answer should be Rohit for this, which should be none of these then. All right. Of the given options, D would be the best option. Let's move on. We just refer back to that arrangement whenever we have to. Who is fifth to the right of Rohan? So we have Rohan here. Fifth to the right would mean first to the right, second, third, fourth, and fifth. My answer should be Ram. But again, if you'll see in the options, there is no Ram given. Again, another error-based question, right? 105 is also going to be an error-based question. So there is no correct answer here. 106. Who is second to the left of Rakesh? So second to the left of Rakesh, we can see it here itself. First to the left, second to the left. My answer should be Sohan. We don't have any Sohan here. So again, one more error-based question, no correct option. 107. Who is immediate right of Mohit? Immediate right. So if you look at Mohit, immediate right is Sohan. So thus my answer should be Sohan. Now we have Sohan here. So option choice A will be the correct answer. Next. So this was the last question from this arrangement set. Who is the third to the right of Sohan? So once again, let's quickly go back to the arrangement. Third to the right of Sohan, first to the right, second to the right, third to the right. My answer should be Suresh. Now again in the option choices, we don't have any, Suresh. One more error question. So overall, we had 4 questions out here which did not have the appropriate option choice, all right. So that was it. I hope it's clear, guys, all right. You have also seen it for yourself. Now I'll just hand it over to my colleague here. Thank you.
All right. Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Anirudh Jairam. I am a verbal faculty with time, and I'll be taking you through the English section of the CLAT 25 exam. To start with, a few observations regarding the paper, and then we'll get into the questions. In terms of observation, the section was as easy as what has been seen in the previous years. The format was more or less the same. So we had 4 passages into 6 questions each, totaling into a total of 24 questions. The word count was around 400 to 450, maximum 500 words. So no surprises out there. And even in terms of sources, the main change from CLAT 23, of course, was that there was no news-based sources, which we'd also seen in the previous years. So no big surprise there. We had 3 non-fiction sources, and one was an excerpt from a fictional book, which, if you remember, in CLAT 24, we had an excerpt from the Anita Desai book, Fire on the Mountain. And in CLAT 23, we had it from Salman Rushdie's novel, Harun and the Sea of Stories. So not many surprises in terms of the sources also. And the questions were again pretty straightforward. Out of the 24, nearly 5 were vocabulary based, and they were extremely straightforward words, which we either use in our day-to-day language or words that you generally would be familiar with. And the remaining 19 were all mostly contextual questions, in the sense that you could directly look for the answer and you would get it. One question had a bit of an inference in one option, which we'll see right now. But on the whole, definitely an easy section without any doubt. And I'm sure all of you must have done really well and also are expecting a good score in this. So on that promising outlook, let's start taking a look at the section. We are looking at paper O, set O. So the order of passages in your paper could change. And even within that, the question order can also change. So just do a one-on-one mapping as and when we are discussing. So the first passage in this set, set O, is basically one that was written by Swami Vivekananda on the education of a nation. So just to quickly take you through this content of this passage, what it basically says is education is not about by-hearting stuff. It's not about libraries or about books, etc. He says it's all about building your character. And then he goes on to say that for that you have to concentrate. He says the key to learning is concentration. Then he also goes on to tell us that for the nation to progress, it's essential that people learn English, people learn Western languages, Western science. They also learn industrialization, because industrialization, he says, is the key to development. He also goes on to say that true education should build your character, it should build your intellect, it should also help you to stand on your 2 feet. So that was in short the passage, very easy to read. Let's now take a look at the questions. Question number 1 says, education as described by the author means. Now this comes from the very first paragraph, if you see, where he tells us that it's not the amount of information, it is not about degrees, and it's not about libraries. This is covered in the very first paragraph. He says it's not about just by-hearting information, because if education were identical with information, then libraries would be sages, and encyclopedias would be the rishis. So he's basically saying education is not all of this. So keeping that in mind, let's check out the question. Education as described by the passage author means information, no. Library, no. Degrees, no. So the answer for question number 1 should be option number D, meaning none of these. This sometimes throws people off, none of these, but in this case, it was extremely straightforward. The answer has to be option number D, none of these. As per the author, the aim of education should be. Okay. Now, this was again covered in the first and the second paragraph. So he goes on to say that we want that education by which character is formed, strength of mind is increased, intellect is expanded, and by which one can stand on one's 2 feet. So, what are the aims of education as per this? Character building, intellect sharpening, strength of mind increasing, and the ability to stand on one's own feet. Keeping this in mind, let's check out the questions now. To help a person build his character? Yes. To help a person earn his livelihood? Now, because he has not used this word directly, there could be a chance that you might have thought B is not possible. But if you think about it, what does standing on one's own feet mean? The ability to earn one's own livelihood. This was the inference that I was talking about, B for Bangalore. Now, suppose you had not been able to figure this out. Still, you would have observed that C is correct. To help a person develop his intellect. So if both A and C are right and you have an option called none of these, it stands to reason that my answer has to be all of the above. So the option B here was the inference one that I was talking about, that it's not directly given. But if you're a little careful in reading, you would have gotten this answer immediately. So for question number 2, again, the answer is D for Delhi, all of the above. I hope you are with me, guys, as if now. Let's go on to the next question. According to the author, the country wants. Now, let's go back and see where does the author talk about what does the country want or what does the country need. Yeah. So over here, if you take a look at it, he's ultimately telling us that the idea for what the country needs is sharpening of the mind, like we saw earlier, sharpening of the intellect, which means the current expression of will are brought under the control and become fruitful is called education. What our country now wants are muscles of iron and nerves of steel, gigantic wills. So he's basically saying that what the country needs is extreme willpower and extreme decisiveness. So keeping that in mind, let's check out the options. Option A, massive willpower, that becomes the answer. Spirit of philanthropy, which is charity, unfortunately not covered. Iron and steel industries. He has said nerves of steel, not the steel industry itself. So C gets eliminated, which means all of the above is also incorrect. So my answer is option number A, massive willpower. According to the author, we need to study. Now, in our summary also, we had seen this initially. And if you also check out the passage, he does talk about the fact that what we need to study, independent of foreign control, is the English language, Western science, technical education, and developing industries. So he's basically talking about studying English, about studying Western sciences or Western languages, and also the technical education part. So if I now come back to this question, the answer therefore should be all of the above. English language, technical education, Western science. So D for Delhi, all of the above. According to the author, which of the following is key to attain knowledge? Now, this was covered in the last paragraph, if you see. There's only one method of attaining knowledge. It is by concentration. He's talking about the concentration part as the main key to attaining knowledge. So let's check if we have an option like that. So which among the following is key to attaining knowledge? University degrees, no. Library, no. Concentration of mind, yes. So option number C. And the last question, which of the following is related to the word assimilation? Now, a quick student might want to directly use his vocabulary and mark the answer. In some cases, that works, but it's generally not advisable because it might be that the way the word has been used is not one that you might be familiar with. What does assimilation mean? Gathering. So let's see where has the author used this word in the passage. Over here. We must have life building, man making, character making, assimilation of ideas, which is the same sense of gathering ideas, basically, like how we just discussed. So, keeping that in mind, let's check out the answer. Option number A, integration, becomes the right answer. The synonym of assimilation here is integration. So one was D for Delhi, two was D for Delhi, three was A for Ahmedabad, fourth was D for Delhi, five was C for Calcutta, and sixth was A for Ahmedabad. This was a pretty straightforward passage. Now let's go on to the second one. This was basically a passage from an article written by a very famous author called George Orwell, who also wrote books like 1984, Animal Farm, etc. Here he interestingly talks about why did he start writing. So as per the author, he started writing because he was a lonely child. He used to talk to imaginary people. That compelled him to start writing as well. Then he goes on to talk about what were the key things that helped him to write, which he mentions are egoism, which is arrogance. Then he talks about aesthetic enthusiasm, which is love for art. Then he talks about historical impulse, keeping in mind the history of what you are writing about. And lastly, political purpose. He says all these four are essential for a writer to write well. He also talks about the idea that he is talking about all these things because it's essential to understand why the writer wants to write. That helps you to judge his written work in a much better manner. So again, a pretty easy passage. Let's check out the questions. George Orwell's loneliness during childhood led to. This came in the very initial part of the passage. I had the lonely child's habit. Just one second, guys. Yeah. I had the lonely child's habit of making up stories. So option number C becomes our answer. George Orwell's loneliness during childhood led to making up of stories. Option number C. Why does Orwell give background information? Now, he did mention that he is giving this information so that you can understand why a writer writes. Let's see, where did he talk about this? Yeah, over here. I give all this background information because I do not think one can assess a writer's motives without knowing something about his early development. Yeah. So he says if you want to understand why a writer writes, you also have to understand his early development. So the answer for the eighth question, therefore, would be here the lonely child's habitats. No, it's essential to know about the motives of writers, which is what we just spoke about. Historic impulse, aesthetic enthusiasm came in later. At this point, he's still talking about understanding the motives behind writing. So definitely B for Bangalore. If a writer escapes his early impulses, he will. This was the next question. So let's see, where does he talk about escaping the early impulses? if he escapes from his early influences altogether, he'll have killed his impulse to write. So he says that if you try to escape your initial motivations, you also kill your desire to write. So let's see if there's an option that is somewhat connected to this. If a writer escapes early impulses, he will lose his urge to write, which is what we just spoke about. Unable to imagine creatively, but if you imagine creatively, you can also paint, you can sing, you can do other things, not necessarily write. So B gets eliminated. Be able to converse with imaginary characters, no. Influencing others, no. So loses urge to write, option number A. For the author, aesthetic enthusiasm is an important motive for writing because it. Now, aesthetics he talked about in the second paragraph. So let's take a look at that over here. Aesthetic enthusiasm, desire to share an experience which one feels is valuable and should not be missed. So he's talking about aesthetic enthusiasm is something that is invaluable, something that is very important for him. So keeping that in mind, now let's check out the question. For the author, aesthetic enthusiasm is important for writing because it shapes the thoughts, no. Creates an artistic piece, no. Becomes invaluable, yes, which is the option that we just saw. Now, non-utilitarian, even if you didn't know the meaning of this word, looking at invaluable, you could still have marked this as your answer. Non-utilitarian means something that is not done only for the sake of it. It has a different purpose. But even if you did not know this, just based on the option, you could still mark C and proceed ahead. Okay. The author strongly advocates writers too. Okay. Now, if you looked at the second para, he talked about egotistic impulses, then he talked about aesthetic appreciation, and he also talked about being political in his approach. He also talked about remembering the historical aspect of what you are writing. These are the 4 points he mentioned in the second para. So let's check this out. To avoid any egoistic impression, but no, he says you should have an ego. It helps you to write better. Be apolitical, but he's telling you to be political. So this is also out. Be contemporary, but he's asking you to keep in mind the historical point. So C is also out. So my answer will be option number D, that is none of the above. Now, this is why sometimes we can also use our own information and go wrong. Generally, people do ask us to be humble and all that, but here the author is talking about using his arrogance or egoism as a tool. So we'll have to keep that in mind when we are solving this question. So D for Delhi, none of the above. And which of the following is a synonym of the word tumultuous? Now let's quickly see where has he used this word tumultuous in the passage. His subject matter will be determined by the age he lives in. At least this is true in the tumultuous revolutionary ages like our own. Now, if something is revolutionary, that means a lot of change is happening. So tumultuous could mean chaotic, confusing, etc. So keeping that in mind, let's take a look at the options. Chaotic, yes. Turbulent, yes. Disorderly, yes. So my answer is D for Delhi, all of the above. Now, one thing you'll have to be careful about in a question like this is all the three options were synonyms. Now, under normal circumstances, you would have definitely got this answer right. I have no doubt about it. But say you were doing this section towards the end. It might have been so that in a hurry, you may not have seen the remaining two options. You saw chaotic, you might feel, chalo, this is the answer, and you'll mark it and go ahead. So just be a little careful. Always check your options properly. In this case, the answer would be D for Delhi. So to just repeat this again, 7th was C for Calcutta, 8th B for Bangalore, 9th A for Ahmedabad, 10th C for Calcutta, 11th D for Delhi, and 12th was D for Delhi. Now, this third passage is a very interesting extract from a short story called An Astrologer's Day written by a very famous Indian writer, R.K. Narayan. It's in fact a part of his short story collection called Malgudi Days. So it here basically talks about an astrologer who starts his work in the noon. He talks about how he sits down, spreads his equipment, has everything ready, how people come when they see him smiling and gleaming, they think he's being very wise and very prophetic. He talks about other people making noise around him, the environment generally being very vociferous or noisy. So, very interesting passage. And if you have the time, do read this short story. It's a very interesting one. Okay, so let's check out the questions. Which among the following is the meaning of the expression vociferousness? Now, if you have done vocabulary, you would know this word automatically, but still we'll check out it over here, out here. Next to him in vociferousness came a vendor of fried groundnut who gave his ware a fancy name and day, calling it Bombay ice cream, Delhi almond, etc. So talking about him, about the vendors loudly shouting out their things. So vociferous should mean loud. Let's check out the options. Expressing opinions or feelings in a loud and confident way. That is all possibility are answer. Words that are spoken or sung to have a magical effect, no. Willing or prepared to do something, no. Aimless, no, because they are trying to sell. So definitely our answer has to be A. When did the astrologer usually start his day's business? Now, if you look at the very start of the para, he says it started around noon. As you can see over here in the very beginning, he's talking about punctually at midday. That's around noon time. So again, a straightforward question without any problem. So when people are attracted to him as bees, no, that happened later. The crowd moves up and down, no. Punctually at midday, yes. So for the 14th question, the answer would be option number C. What was considered as a prophetic light by the simple clients of the astrologer? Now, this prophetic point was mentioned again in the starting, where he says that, yeah, his forehead was dazzling with sacred ash. 1 minute, guys. Yeah. His forehead was dazzling with sacred ash and vermilion, and his eyes sparkled with a sharp, abnormal gleam, which was really an outcome of looking for customers, but which simple clients took as a prophetic light. So they looked at the gleam in his eyes and thought it's a prophetic light. So keeping that in mind, let's now check out the option. The resplendent forehead of the astrologer with sacred ash and vermilion, but he's also talking about the gleam part of it. So A gets eliminated. The sparkling eyes of the astrologer with an abnormal gleam. That would be our answer. Dark whiskers, no. Saffron colored turban, no. So the answer would be B for Bangalore. Again, a straightforward one. Which among the following is the word for the phrase bright and colorful in an impressive way? Now, this is a reverse question in the sense that he has given you the phrase. Normally, they give the word, you have to figure out the meaning. They've given you the meaning, you have to figure out the word. So, mystic, no, because that is like magical or philosophical. Flare is fire. So, again, no. Sparkle could have been the answer if it had been written as sparkling, which would have been its correct adverb form. So sparkle would be incorrect. The answer would be dazzling. So this was a reverse question. So giving you the word and the meaning, they give you the meaning, you have to figure out the word. Which among the following is not a trade or occupation represented in the pathway running through the town hall park? So let's see which all trades and occupations was he talking about over here. So he spoke about, 1 minute, yeah. He spoke about medicine sellers, okay. He talked about hardware sellers, magicians, and auctioneers. So keeping that in mind, let's check out the options. So magicians, yes. Medicine sellers, yes. He did mention auctioneers, but auctioneers of cloth. This is talking about auctioneers of cheap bags. And he spoke about hardware also. So my answer would be option number C, auctioneers of cheap bags. And lastly, which among the following used names like Bombay ice cream, Delhi almond, and Raja's delicacy to attract the crowd? I think this was groundnut seller from what we remember. Let's quickly just confirm it once. Yeah. So a vendor of fried groundnut who gave his ware a fancy name, calling it Bombay ice cream, Delhi almond, etc. He's talking about the groundnut seller. The answer would be D for Delhi. So to quickly repeat the answers, 13th would be A for Ahmedabad, 14th C for Calcutta, 15th B for Bangalore, 16th D for Delhi, 17th C for Calcutta, and 18th D for Delhi. Again, a very easy passage, guys. And now we come to the last passage, which was about education, but this time it was about how teachers should teach and how parents should be with children, written by a very famous philosopher called J. Krishnamurti. So, in short, what did he talk about? Teachers have to understand what a child needs and accordingly teach. And parents should also understand what are the fears and the motivations of a child and accordingly help them out. And if you don't do that, you're going to make the child more scared, more depressed, so on and so forth. So keeping that in mind, let's check out the questions. Which of the following currently reflects the intention of the author of this passage? Now, this is like a primary purpose kind of question. The right kind of education for a child cannot be without love, care, and understanding. This, if you see, is the overall crux of the passage. Because he says teachers should also be with love and care, and so should parents. So, all in all, if you look at a child in general, you can't have proper education unless they pay some attention and they do it with love and care. So, my answer has to be A for Ahmedabad. B is a contradiction by saying you teach a child as per our ideals. So that is wrong. According to his or her methodology, again a teacher's methodology. So C is also wrong. And D talks about parents and teachers working together, but as per their ambitions and not that of the child. So the answer has to be option number A. Okay. Then question number 20. In the light of the above passage, what would be the result of forcing a child to conform to the framework of an ideal? So what happens if you force a child? Let's see where does he talk about this. Yeah. So what he's basically telling us over here is if you try to impose on the child an ideal, you're trying to force him to become something, leading to further troubles. He's saying you won't be able to give him the kind of education that the child wants to. So based on that, if I take a look at the question, it will make the child an ideal child. No, he's actually being negative over here. It will create confusion and fear in the child. Yes, that would be our answer, that you end up confusing the child further. So B for Bangalore. According to the author, what should be the attitude of a right teacher? So where does he talk about how a proper teacher should be? If a teacher is of the right kind, he'll not depend upon a method, but will study each pupil. So he says the right teacher is one who understands the pupil's requirement and accordingly teaches him. So keeping that in mind, they should not empathize with students. No, that is the opposite. They should use modern and scientific methods. Yes, but while helping the child. So B is also out. They should focus on studying each child individually. That would be our answer. Look at each child and see what does the child want. According to the passage, why do we look for quick and easy remedies and hope for marvelous and automatic results? Let's check. Where does he talk about this? Yeah, over here. In our relationship with children and young people, we are not dealing with mechanical devices that can be quickly repaired, but with living beings who are impressionable, etc. When we lack these, we look to quick and easy remedies. So he's saying if you do not have understanding, patience, and love, that's when you end up creating these problems. So, with that in mind, let's check out the question. Because children are impressionable, volatile, sensitive, affectionate, that's the other side of the story. But here he's asking you the point of view of the teacher. Because of major difficulties in education, no. We lack intelligence, no. Because we lack understanding, patience, and love, which is what we saw out there. What does the passage highlight as the quality of a parent who really desires to understand his child? Now, the previous question was on what a teacher should do. Now we have to see what a parent should do. Yeah, over here. So again, he talks about the love for the child, about understanding what the child wants, etc. So based on that, if I take a look at the options, they look at their child through the prism of an ideal. No, that's not what an ideal parent should do. They observe and study the tendency, the mood, and the peculiarity of the child. Yes. So you look at how the child is and you accordingly teach him or her. So for this, the answer would be B for Bangalore. And the last question in this set, what is the antonym of the word volatile? Now, volatile, as we know, is unstable, but let's see how he has used it in the passage. Because that's always the best way to go about it. Yeah, over here. We are dealing with living beings who are impressionable, volatile, sensitive, afraid, affectionate. So he's again looking at it from the perspective of a child who's very unstable. So keeping that in mind, you have to look at an antonym. So stable is one, steady is one, constant is one. My answer would be all of the above. So to repeat the answers once, 19th was A for Ahmedabad, 20 B for Bangalore, 21 C for Calcutta, 22 D for Delhi, 23 B for Bangalore, and 24 D for Delhi. So guys, all in all, I think you would agree with me when I say this was a straightforward section, pretty doable. We feel a good student could have attempted around 20 to 22 questions comfortably with a good accuracy. And provided you had given some time for this, again, 20-25 minutes should have been enough, and you read the questions carefully. So I hope all of you did really well. And now I'll hand it over to Abhishek sir. He'll talk to you about the quant part.
All right, hello everyone once again. Now we'll be discussing quant now. Now this year quant will behave like a big game changer. Fine. So let's go to quant section. Just give me a minute. All right. So now the quant section over here is pretty simple. Uh, you see, this year's quant. The first change that happened is they have given two sets instead of three. That was expected that there will be three set of four questions, but instead of that, they have given only two sets. So that makes student life a bit easier if he comprehend with a particular set, or if in case he feels that this particular set is not for me, or is not connecting with a set, in that case it backfires also. Now this year quant specifically when I go through is actually pretty easy provided you have practiced a bit of approximation and you had a bit of confidence in you that you will be able to solve the quant and you have attempted it. If you have not attempted the quant questions this year in this year CLAT, believe me, that will backfire and you will be at a loss, because in actuality when you go to the questions they are pretty easier ones. But packaging is, I do agree that in one side the packaging is very difficult. It looks like a very difficult question. When you read the caselet data, it looks like very much kind of mixed up and jumbled data where you are not able to comprehend which data to use, which not to use. But if you go through questions with confidence, you'll feel that a lot of the data given in the caselet are not at all required. So if you have used presence of mind, if you have used approximation and have confidence in quant, showed some confidence or daring in quant, it was expected that you can easily attempt around 8 to 9 questions. And believe me, questions are easy, options are not closed, accuracy would have been very good in this case. Fine. Now let's discuss this first set. Now, as this first set said, Mr. Das working construction company, you all have gone through this set and have gone through a reading of the set. I'll specifically point out on few things. One is uh, salary of 9228 is mentioned, and there is a rent allowance. Rent allowance is of 10%. So how much actually he is earning, that is one thing that we need to mention here. Fine. So salary is 9. Just a second. So salary is 9. Uh, it's not working, I think. Yeah, it's fine now. So let me erase it once, then I'll rewrite. All right. So let's go ahead. Now salary given is, once again it's happening. Okay, I'll write it by 9228. And then 10% is allowance. So 10% of 9228 is how much? You can always calculate this basic maths with you. So adding 10% of 9228 plus 10%. So by going through this calculation, you can easily say that the total amount he is getting is 10151 approximately. This is what he was getting, 10151. So this is one particular figure that is very important for us in solving this particular set, questions related to this particular set. And again, it's not difficult to get this particular figure. You just have to add 10% of 9228 to 9228. Fine. So that is 10151. Now, approximately decimal, it will come in some decimal. So I rounded up to 10151 approximately. Now let's understand one more thing. There is one more data given over here that is very, very important for us to know, that 25% on food expenses. Fine. So what I'll do is I'll write it again. Food is 25%. I'm not writing percentage figure, I'm just writing numerical figures. Then 18% on paying the house rent. Fine. So house rent is 18%. Then another data is 9% on entertainment. So I'll write entertainment as 9%. Fine. Let me just entertainment as 9%. Fine. Then going ahead, 23% on education of the child. So on education, I'll write 23%. And then 13% on medical expenses. So I'll write medical as 23%, sorry, 13%. And then he saves 12%. Now, savings is what? Savings is basically income minus expenses. So whatever he is getting, how much he is getting? He is getting 10151 out of this amount. This is all the expenses he's doing, and all these expenses are in percentage terms. So this is basically means 25% of 10151, 18% of 1051, and so on. And after deducting all these things, what we'll get is 12% of 10151 as the savings. Now going ahead with the questions. Now first question over here is how much money remains for the other expenses after house rents and saving. Now house rent and saving, let's talk on about this question. How much is the house rent? That is 18%. And how much is the saving? That is 12%. So house rent in this particular question is 18%. This figure here is 18%, and this figure is 12%. So if I add these two figures, it comes out to be 18 plus 12, that is 30%. So if I remove this 30%, what is the amount of money remains? That's been asked with me. So if I remove 30%, what I'll get is 70%. So basically I have to calculate 70% of 10151. This is what I have to calculate, 70% of 10151. Now if you are good in approximation, you can easily calculate 70% of 10151. That's not at all an issue. Fine. Answer is pretty simple. That would be 7106. So this is the correct answer. Fine. Now going ahead, second question, if I talk about, it says that if the expenditure on food and entertainment increased by 10%. Now expenditure on food and entertainment both are increased by 10%. Now let's look at the figure. What is the expense on food? Food expense was 25%. Fine. And what's the expense on entertainment? It was 9%. So I'm increasing these two figures by 10%. That means there will be increase of 2.5. That is 10% of 25 in food, and there will be an increase of 0.9, 0.9. Why? It would be 10% of 9. So these two figures will be increased in expense. Now if I increase these two figures in expense, definitely it will reduce my savings. So if I reduce these figures, I'll say how much I was saving initially. Initially I was saving 12%. But from this saving, this increase in two expenditures will reduce my savings. So what would be the new savings? It would be original saving initially minus the two increases that happened. Many students calculate lots of figures in these questions. It is at all not required to calculate the actual values. We can only play in the percentage figures. That's it. So 12% minus 2.5 minus 0.9. So going by this calculation, the answer would be 8.6%. Another pretty easy question if you are calculating in a proper manner. If you are calculating 25% of 10151, then 9% of 105, then adding them, then increasing 10%, then calculating 12% of saving, then decreasing it, and again calculating percentage. Some of the students waste time like this. You do not need to waste time like this. Fine. If you have gone through with basic common sense and confidence, it would have been a very easy question for you to crack. Fine. Now going to another question. How much total money has he spent on food and entertainment? Now again, food and entertainment figures I have already done with me. Food is 25% and entertainment is 9%. So 25% plus 9%. So this is 25% and this is 9%. So if I add these two figures, what I'll get is total 34%. So what I have to calculate? I have to calculate 34% of 34%. Just a second. 34% of 10151. Now this calculation can be easily done. 34% of 10151. But in this particular questions, the options are a bit close. When you do calculation of 34% of 10151, you can do it number of ways. You can calculate 34% of 10,000 first. 34% of 10,000 is how much? It's 3,400. And now you have to add 34%, that is 0.34 of 151, that is additional figure in except 10,000. So 151 का 34% is basically near to one third, that is 50. So my answer will be around 3450. Fine. Now all in fact my answer would be very close to 3450. So if I go by even for approximation or exact calculation, the answer of this question will be none of these. Fine. Now why I have given none of these? Because there is none of these option given over here. Approximately it is close to 3461, but since none of these is given, so we have to take the correct option. Now next question I'm talking about, how much money does Mr. Das pay to house rent? Now going to this, when I talk about house rent, how much is the house rent? The house rent figure was 18%. So again in this question what we have to calculate? We have to calculate 18% of 10151. So 18% of 10151 you can very easily calculate. You can calculate 20% minus 2%. You can calculate 10% plus 8%. Again, you can calculate 18% of 10,000 plus 18% of 151. There are number of ways of doing this calculation in a very easier manner. And when you go through, you'll easily say answer is 1827, and 18% of 10151 is approximately 100. Approximately 10,100. So 10,100 ka, if you calculate 18% of 10,100, you'll find answer will be 1820 something. So again, since there is none of these option, I can go for approximation in this question. So my answer of this question would be A in this case. Fine. Then next question. It says Mr. Das gets 12% annual interest on savings. So basically, whatever is the annual savings would be, because interest is annual interest. So whatever is the annual savings would be, he will be getting an increase of 12% in his savings because he get 12% interest on it. Fine. So amount that of saving he has annually, that amount plus 12% interest that he earned. This is the total amount he will be having in his account in terms of saving. Fine. Now we know that the saving is 12%. Fine. So 12% of what? 12% of 10151, but that is monthly figure. So if I calculate 12% of 10151, I'll get it as 1018. But that is a monthly figure. We have to convert it into an annual figure. So we have to multiply it with 12. Now when you multiply with 12, what I get is 14616. Now again, 14616 is his annual saving without any interest. Now we have to add the interest. That is, we have to add 12% of interest to this. Now from here, if I use simple logic, 10 it's 12%. If I add 12% in it, if I add 10%, I'll add 1400 to it. So again, if I add 12%, I'll be adding around 2000 to it. Fine. So again, that will make the figure would be around 16,000. Actual saving is this one, and 12% of this will be more than 2000. So 16,000 plus I'll be getting in the very first year. Again, second year I'll be getting again 16,000 plus figure. So by getting them sum after 2 years, I'm already more than 30,000 savings that I am having. So a simple logic over here, no need of further calculation. I can easily say that correct answer is D. There is no need for any extra saving. He eventually will save more than 30,000 in this scenario only. Nothing extra has to be done over here. And now this question will require a bit of calculation. So I'll rate this question as a moderate question for student because they practice less in terms of calculations. Now going to this question seems to be a bit lengthier one with lot of words and lot of lines, but it is very easy question. You have to do very simple mathematics. The answer is C. A very simple thing. Amount is house rent. So how much was the house rent? House rent was 18%. Then amount spent on entertainment. How was the amount spent on entertainment? That is 9%. Then amount on education, that is 23%. So if I add these three figures, that is 18 plus 9 plus 23, what I'll get is I'll get 50%. Fine. Then I have to compare this with what? Spent on food and expense. Food and expense is how much? Food and expense is 25%. It's 25%. Just a second. Medical expenses, how much? Medical expenses is 23%. Sorry, 13%. It's 13%. And then the last figure is savings, that is 12%. So by adding last these three figures, my sum would be again 50. So the expense that I have to compare is combination of house rent, entertainment, education, that is 50, and then again food, medical, saving, that is again 50. So both these figures are same. Now what thing is saying, the first figure is greater than the second figure. Is it right or wrong? It is wrong. Clearly it is wrong. Right? So basically option A cannot be the answer. This is what you have to do. You just have to add a percentage figure. That's it. The most basic kind of question you have to do. Right? So if you are leaving this question because of the size of the question, again they are playing with your confidence. The paper is not difficult. Any question that we have discussed in first set, all of them are easy questions, provided you are not scared of basic calculation. Fine. Now this particular set, the second set is the one thing that student gets scared of or student get confused to, that this set is very difficult, how to handle this much data and so on. It is nothing, a very delicate, a very tasty food served in a very bad manner. That's it. Fine. If you go to the question, you'll find that only 3-4 data in this entire set is used, as many questions can be solved without even looking out at any data from this paragraph. So there are two ways by which student approaches. One, I read the entire caselet, I'll sort out the entire data, and then I'll go to the question. But since this caselet is big one and has a lot of data, and again some data are not at all related, out of the blue it comes out that it is written over there uh, something related to agriculture is there, then some figure are given which are not at all related to any figure. By going through this, you'll see, okay, let's see what's the level of question. Caselet is bigger, data is much. Let's see, we'll see the question and then we'll see what to be used. Now in this question, it says if a female casual worker earns rupees 200 per hour, how much is female casual worker earning? Rupees 200 per hour. And wage of man casual worker is given to be 48% more. So basically, how much male will earn? Will earn 48% more than 200. So 200 plus 48% of 200. This is my calculation. Is it a difficult question? In this question, you need not to go to any caselet or any question. Everything is given where the correct answer is this one. Nothing to be used out of caselet in this question. Fine. Now, let's go to second question. It says, assume in 2020 the earning gap between male and female self-employed worker was 2.5 times. Now, initial gap was how much? It was 2.5 times. And it increased to what? It increased to 2.8 times. What is it asking? It is asking what is the percentage increase in the earning gap. That is, if I earning gap is increases from 2.5 to 2.8, by what percent it increased? Very basic calculation. Increase is how much? Increase is 0.3 and base value is what? 2.5 into 100. Is it a difficult question? 20, remove 0, 25, 4, 3 4s are 12. This is your correct answer. Now, for the first two questions, you have not used any data from caselet so far. So if you have missed these two questions just because by seeing the size of the caselet, then in that case you are mistaken and you have lost a lot of time by reading the caselet. These two questions should have been attempted by you very easily and should have been scored by you very easily. Fine. Now, again, which of the following statement is correct? Now, this particular question is one question wherein we'll be going to use the data from the question. Again, what we have to check? We have to check which of the following statement is correct. Fine. That is what we have to check. Which of the following statement is correct? Now, going through this, where is the question? Yeah, here is the question. Which of the following statement is correct? The wage gap of Goa and Kerala state is less than Tamil Nadu. The wage gap of Tamil Nadu is greater than Jharkhand and Gujarat. No calculation required. Just see one line of the caselet. I just want you to focus on one line on the caselet. Fine. Tamil Nadu has the highest gender wage gap. This one line. Tamil Nadu has the highest gender wage gap. Fine. Now, if Tamil Nadu has the highest gender wage gap, then this is also correct. This is also correct. So by going through this data, I can easily say that correct answer for this question would be of both option A and B. So this is my answer. I have solved 3 questions of this most seem to be very difficult set, but till now I have not done any scientific or detailed or difficult calculation. Fine. They are pretty easy question as if now. Now let us go to the next question. If the wages paid to men working in agriculture sector in Goa is rupees 335 on an average, what is the amount of wages paid to women in that region? Now for this question, again we have to go to the paragraph, and when we go to the paragraph, we basically see that the wages of men is basically 61% more than that of woman. So if I go by this particular data, I can say that basically what man earns is 61% more than what woman earns. That means man is equals to 1.661 times of what women are getting or females are getting. Now this data is pretty much given in the paragraph. If you need, I can show you where it is written. Just give me a moment. Fine. So by going through this particular data, you can easily calculate 61%. You can calculate the wages of men given as 335. So my simple calculation is 335 divided by 1.61. This is what I have to calculate as wages of female, or in general wages of woman. The data given cost as woman, so I'll use woman only. So when you calculate this thing, the answer comes out to be 208. The answer would be 208. So by going through this, the correct answer is none of these. Again, not at all a difficult question. Fine. And one simple data is used from the paragraph, that is wages of men is 61% more than wages of women in Goa. One line again from the entire caselet. Only one line is that what you require. Fine. Now next, this particular question. Now there is a controversy in this particular question. Now what the controversy is? I have seen some of the set, but in set O, this is written wrongly. It's a typo error. So every student who gets set O will have this question as wrong question. It is correct in all other sets, but in set O, instead of writing 115, it should have been question number 118. That is the previous question that we have solved. We have to use data of this question to solve this question. So if you are from set O, definitely in that case, you cannot solve this question. But if I'm using this correct data, that is, it is using data of this. So by this, I am writing over here that this is 208, that the figure we have calculated initially. If you go to the paragraph caselet, you'll easily find that the figure of Gujarat was 247, the figure of Kerala was 537, and the figure of Jharkhand was 239. Now this is the data that you do not have to calculate. You just have to pick it from the caselet, and it is given over there is simply, you will hardly make 1 minute, at most 1 minute, to read the line and write these figures over there. So who's having the least wages? The answer would be Goa. So people having this question in correct order in other set, the answer would be Goa. For set O, let's wait for the clarification of consortium. They might have to consider it as a bonus mark for all the candidates who are having set O as their answer, or they can discard this question for everyone. We have to wait for what consortium say for this particular typing error. Fine. And now let's come to the last question of this section. After that, I'll give you an overall view of the paper. that what score is can you consider as a good score. Now in 2023, it is given that average female worker is rupees 250. Fine. How much male self-employed worker earn on an average? Now it was given in the question that male earns 2.8 times that of what woman worker earns or female worker earns. So answer would be 2.8 times of 250. Now again, very easy calculation. Simply would be 700. So now, so we have solved 12 question of quant, and by going through this, you can easily say that none of the question required more than 2 or 3 steps of calculations. So you cannot call this quant section as moderate or difficult. Technically is an easy question. Technically they are very easy question. Student who are good in mathematics would have scored easily 10 marks out of these 12 marks. Fine. And now when you are targeting top 6 or top 8 colleges in NLU, definitely you have to fight with the student who are good in maths also. Fine. So always keep these factor in mind. If you have not attempted 8 questions in quant, you will lose and good NLUs. If you have not attempted 8 or more question in quant with good accuracy, it will be a factor that will change your result in a negative manner. Fine. So again, student, it has been told to all the student number of times that many times quant can be a game changer. In this paper, the student, now I will give you the overall overview. English was pretty easy. You should have scored very good marks in English. In English, you will lose marks because of silly mistake or because of lack of concentration. No other factor will make any deduction in your English marks. Same goes with legal. In legal, if you are not scoring very good marks, then you have committed crime, because legal is very, very easy for this paper. When it comes to English, GK, again, GK is very simple. Conventional GK is there, although I understand that it is simple for the student who have prepared a lot. Obviously, I'm talking about uh, good student right now. Fine. I'm talking about candidate who will be going to the top 8, top 10 NLUs. So GK is again manageable if you have gone through your study material in a proper manner. If you have revised well, GK would have been again a scoring section for you. So these 3 sections would have been a scoring section for any good candidate. Having said that, when I talk about reasoning section, in reasoning section there was a surprise. There was an introduction of analytical reasoning set, but sadly, CLAT consortium need to work out, and I'm telling it in a very strong manner, need to work out on the accuracy and content of the question they give in a national level CLAT exam paper. It has been happening repeatedly. I'm observing CLAT since 2008. Fine, they have to make one single paper in the entire year, and even then, if they have questions which are not correct or have mistakes or paper has typing error, then I don't know, I have a strong doubt about what proofreading or what quality check they do. So that particular set of analytical reasoning, if student have skipped that set, they would have been in a kind of uh, good mood right now, because some of the questions in the set have errors and cannot be done. They will be discarded. Will raise query that these questions are not correct, data is not correct, answer cannot be found. Fine. So student, definitely some of the good student unluckily have wasted time in that particular set. So that one thing will change. That, and again, it will affect 4 to 6 marks for every student, sadly. Fine. Critical reasoning was not very easy. What was very difficult, I'll rate it as easy to moderate, but slightly towards moderate, because if you are not good in conceptual clarity, you will commit wrong option. Accuracy will vary, and you will commit small mistakes that will fetch you some negative marks and will overall reduce your marks. So reasoning section, student will score a bit less with respect to keeping in the mind the factor of accuracy, and the wrong question asked in analytical reasoning set. Uh, since legal reasoning was easy, so student might have ample time to attempt all the questions in the paper. Having said that, you should have attempted maths also. Maths was again, food was good, but presented in a very not good looking manner. So you have left it, you have not tasted the food. Again, that's your mistake. If you are talking about getting into top 6, 8, 10 NLUs, you cannot skip one section, and you cannot say that I'll skip one section, I'll go to top 10 NLU. That will not happen, at least not in this year. in this year the people are not scoring good in maths, it will be very difficult for them to get into top 5, top 3 NLUs. Fine. This is the first impression analysis of paper. Having said that, an attempt of 100, 105 plus would have been a good attempt. And if I talk about top 5 NLU, the first impression says a score somewhere 85 to 90. That is required for top 5 NLUs right now is our call. Let us wait for, since it's a paper of only 120 marks. So even discarding 3-4 questions will change cutoffs and rankings to in a very drastic manner. So we will wait for consortium's clarification regarding wrong questions and the actual answer key. Then we'll again raise some queries. Let's see what final answer key comes out, and after that only we can decide what final outcome can be with respect to cutoffs and top 5 NLU rankings. But as if now, the status quo I'm maintaining, I'm considering those wrong questions to be discarded, not to be considered for checking. Keeping that factor in mind, 105 should be your decent attempt, and 85 to 90 is the score that you should aim if you want to get into top 5 national university. Fine. We'll be coming up with the answer key of all the 4 sections, and we'll be putting it on Telegram channel and website. You can visit our website and you can see section wise and series wise whatever code of yours may be. It may be star, it may be O, it may be triangle, it may be column, whatever it is. We have provided answer key of all the 4 parts. You'll see. You can regularly check our website to access those. If it's there, fine. If it's not there, it will be uploaded within the next 5-10 minutes. So need not to worry. And one more thing, CLAT is over. Next Sunday you'll be having your AILET paper. Many of you will be targeting AILET. So again, in AILET there is no maths, but you have to practice and revise a lot for AILET also. Put this chapter aside for 1-2 days. Be very cautious and attentive about notification and coming out from consortium. Most probably by going through the last 2-3 years pattern, they will be uploading their answer key, official answer key on CLAT's consortium website late tonight or tomorrow. And with that, they will be putting up a tab in your login ID asking about grievances. Fine. So we'll be preparing a list of grievances after the answer key comes, and we'll share it on our Telegram channel. You all can download the grievances from there, and you can submit those grievances. Obviously, you have to submit through your own login portal. Once grievances have been submitted, they will review the answer key, and then they will come out with the final answer key. And after that, your counseling portal will get open. You will have to pay some counseling fees. You have to put your NLU preference list, and after that, after some days from that, you will be getting NLU allotment list, and you have to pay for counseling if you got some NLU, and the process will start. We will record number of videos to help you out in each and every step going ahead until you get admission into some of the decent NLU. Fine. So best of luck for your upcoming exam, that is AILET and SLAT. CLAT has happened. It was good. It was okay. Whatever may be the scene, it has happened. Now, do not panic and do not waste your AILET and SLAT attempt just because of what happened in CLAT. For those who are not able to, who think that their paper was not gone as per expected, and those who have done well, still I'll recommend prepare hard for AILET and SLAT, because it is not advisable that you feel you have done so much good in CLAT, now you will not go AILET. Unless your result and ranks are out, do not take such call. This is my recommendation. Rest, I'll leave it up to you. Best of luck, and I hope that you all have done very good in your CLAT exam, and same, you'll do great in your AILET and SLAT exam. So this is Abhishek from Team CLATPREP signing off now. Bye-bye. Have a nice day. Have a sound sleep tonight. You have prepared a lot for the 1 year, 2 year. You deserve a good evening, and you deserve a good night's sleep. Whatever happened in CLAT, that's past now. Look at present and future. All the best.